580 Sports Talk coming to you on a Thursday. Thank you so much for joining us on a lovely afternoon here in the capital city of Kansas. Jake LeBon, Brandon Dorzinski, Dan Lucero with you. We'll talk midway point of the NFL season. We will get to one of my favorite segments of the week. Paul Myerberg will join us, talk a little Big 12. What does he think of K-State's final possession against Texas? How about KU against Iowa State? He picked Iowa State.
Yeah.
I was the only one to ride with the Hawks. Look at me, big Hawk fan. Look at that. I believe in the Hawks. None of you guys had faith
I don't
in
know.
the Hawks.
I don't think you're beating those KU hater LeBon accusations yet.
I get KU hater LeBon, K-State hater LeBon. The only one that's accurate.
Emporia State hater
You
LeBon.
damn right. And I suppose Pittsburgh State hater.
Guilty on all counts.
Yeah, I will go to my grave on that. And that is perfectly fine. I have no problem with that. You don't like it? Bite me, right? You know, you don't like it? Deal with it.
Whoa.
Deal with it, right?
Spicy.
Salty Jake
All
here
right.
today on a Thursday. How about that?
It's only,
That's right.
It's only 2:07.
That got me fired up, bringing up the Hornets and the Gorillas. How about that?
Bite me.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's right. That was a great comeback back in the 90s, man.
No,
Y'all-
you know, that's still a good comeback.
it's a great comeback.
How do you respond to that? Like, you're in a sparring match with someone and they just go, you know what? Bite me.
I don't know how to
Yeah.
respond to that because I'm not in 6th grade anymore.
Yeah, exactly. People don't know what to do. They haven't heard it in a while.
You hit them with the old, well, I'm rubber and you are glue.
Yeah.
Whatever you say bounces off of me and sticks to you.
Bam! That right there. That might get your butt kicked nowadays. I don't know.
I want to kick my own butt just for saying it out loud.
You know, but let's be real. The youths nowadays, they don't really do a whole lot with the old fisticuffs anymore. So we got a lot to get to.
They just hit you with a TikTok dance.
Yeah, they do.
They settle it on settle in a game of Fortnite.
Yeah, they turn it
I don't
into
think
content.
Fortnite's a thing anymore.
Oh, no.
It's a thing.
It's still a thing.
Oh, yeah.
Big time.
It's back.
Abby's got a cousin who's
Hold
like,
on, but we have to admit that it like went away there for a little, not like away, but it wasn't, you know,
a little bit, but yeah.
peak everything.
Abby's got a cousin who I think is 11, and I like Fortnite's bigger than God. Yeah,
Yeah, no, I didn't know it was back.
For some people,
They know it was back.
please do not take that out of context.
Good for Fortnite. Good for Fortnite. Get some more dances. Get some more
Yeah,
more moves. Good for Fortnite. All right. Well,
you ever played?
yeah, I actually did one time. I played one time.
That's one more than me.
I played one time.
I've never played.
I did. I did okay. I did all right.
Nice. Where did you play?
I played at my brother-in-law's, Lindsay's brother.
Okay.
He had one and he was playing it. And I said, "What is that? You know, what is these?" And he said, "It's Fortnite." I was like, "Man, let me get on the sticks." And he was like, "What?" And I was like, "Okay, they don't call it sticks anymore." All right, good to know. So I said, "Can I try it?" And I gave it the good old college try. Got a couple of
Okay.
took care of business. I mean, I didn't win, but that's all right. That's okay.
You tried your best.
Yeah,
And you had fun.
I did okay. That's good. We're
And
good.
as long as
We're
some
good.
like 9-year-old didn't hit you with the loser dance or whatever it is, then yeah, you probably came out of it okay.
We're good. We're good. Let us know your thoughts on if you're good at Fortnite. Send us a text 272
Apparently send Jake some tips.
942. No, probably won't be playing it again. That's okay until the new thing with my son pops up, probably that type of deal. So we'll have to wait and see what's hot in the streets here in 2 years.
Yeah.
But
Bring out the old Nintendo.
he doesn't want that.
You don't know that.
No,
Maybe he's going to get really into retro gaming.
yeah, I'm gonna say he don't want this work. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
I see.
He didn't want to see me in Excite Bike. He didn't want to see me.
You're gonna Cardale Jones and put up 95
Yep.
on him in a game of Tecmo Bowl.
Yep. Mm-hmm. He ain't gonna get a playoff if I'm playing with Lawrence Taylor on Tecmo Bowl.
Joke's on you, son. You picked
Yeah.
the Chiefs. They're not that good on this
No.
game.
Well, Okoye is not bad in Super Tecmo Bowl. I will say that. Barry Word as well. But we got a lot to get to.
The backs by popular demand.
Hit us up on our text line if you've got any
Backs by popular demand. I'd forgotten about that.
if you want to let us know your thoughts on Fortnite. You can also check us out on YouTube. Go to youtube.com. Type in 580 Sports Talk. Real simple. Join the stream. Leave a comment in there. We always appreciate that. We'll talk with Paul Myerberg. We're going to talk with Rick Peterson. Big high school football Friday coming up tomorrow. Really excited about it.
Yeah, we're down to the final 8 in every class,
Mhm.
which is, how many classes do we have now? 9?
84.
So, yeah, 72 teams left.
Over 1,000.
Feels like that.
We're going to talk a little baseball today. John Sherman opening up the checkbook. Yeah, I'll believe it when I see
Yeah,
it.
well,
But we'll get to that.
maybe.
We'll also hear from our Louis Toda Athletes of the Week. But let's start things off. We've talked about the offense. We've talked about the defense. Now let's talk about what the Kansas City Chiefs did in the offseason and how are the newcomers for the Kansas City Chiefs. Not the draft picks, but how have the Kansas City Chiefs done at the free agent market? And the first one that we were going to discuss is something interesting. This was from CBS Sports that says 2023 acquisitions who aren't living up to expectations. And the number one from CBS is good old Jimmy GQ at the Raiders. Shocker that they thought this would work out, but Jimmy GQ, Odell Beckham Jr., 19 receptions, 218 yards, 1 touchdown. Brendan, go ahead, take a victory lap. Dalvin Cook, running back for the Jets.
More like Dalvin Cook, duh. Ha! Got him!
Tremaine Edmonds, linebacker for the Bears.
I can't believe that didn't work out. I can't believe it.
Brandon Cooks for the Cowboys, who's on his 13th team.
That one I actually am surprised it hasn't worked.
And then on the list of NFL 2023 acquisitions who aren't living up to the hype, Jawan Taylor, the Kansas City Chiefs. And this is what it says. The Chiefs surprisingly put Taylor in the exclusive $20 million offensive lineman club rather than re-signing Orlando Brown. He played on the $16.6 million franchise tag. This year, Jawan Taylor received 4 years, $80 million, $60 million guaranteed, $40 million fully guaranteed. Originally, Taylor was going to make the transition to left tackle after spending 4 years in the NFL with the Jags at right tackle, but that changed when Donovan Smith was signed to a 1-year deal worth $3 million. Taylor leads all NFL offensive linemen with 11 penalties. The next highest total is 8. 10 of Taylor's penalties have been accepted. Taylor was briefly benched during Week 2's game against the Jaguars for repeated penalties. So we're going to start with the highest paid guy that the Chiefs signed this offseason as a free agent, Jawan Taylor. Do you think he is one of the worst free agent acquisitions who's not living up to the hype?
Well, I think there's a difference between worst and not living up to the hype for what it's worth. I mean, yeah, has he been an elite right tackle? No, I don't think he has been. So in that regard, yeah, I also don't think he's been awful by any means. I don't think the Chiefs are worse off having him than keeping Orlando Brown, for example. So I don't think he's among the worst that anyone signed this year. But yeah, I mean, if you wanted to say disappointing in the sense that the Chiefs gave him a ton of money and he's just been okay to slightly above average, I think that's fair.
Let me ask you this. If you take away the first 3 weeks of the season in terms of the false start, lining up too deep, getting off too quickly, I have a hard time. And that was really the first 3 weeks. And to be frank, he was profiled. All right. Yeah. They made such a big deal of that on Thursday night against the Lions that he was profiled. There were so many guys who were lined up deeper than he was on other games, didn't get called for it. I mean, Lane Johnson is deeper than Jawan Taylor is, never gets called for it. I mean, they even put out a memo profiling Jawan Taylor. I really have a hard time getting worked up over 5-yard penalties. I really do. Holding penalties, different story, okay? But if you think about it, give me the last 5 weeks. Have we heard really from Jawan Taylor a whole lot? Of those 11 penalties, I'm going to say 8 of them were in the first 3 weeks. And they were, half of those were all procedural, getting off too early, lining up too late. He did have a couple holding calls. I'm not going to, I mean, that's obvious. But since then, he's figured out the timing of Patrick Mahomes' cadence, which is a big, big deal when you're trying to get off, when you're doing the kick step. But overall, I never thought he was going to be top 5 offensive tackles. Plus, the contract that he signed is not top 5 offensive linemen in the NFL. It's not. It's top 10. But do I think has he done better than Orlando Brown? I would venture to say yes to start things off, but I would not lump him in there. This is more so of a national writer looking at some stats saying, wow, he leads the NFL in penalties with 11, despite 8 of those being 5-yard penalties. If they were 10 holding calls, I'd be saying a different story.
Yeah, seriously.
But this is a guy who doesn't watch a lot of O-linemen play for the Chiefs, because overall, like you said, has he been worth the contract? Probably not, because you want probably top 5 offensive right tackles if you're going to give that guy's money. But I'll tell you this. I think he's better than Orlando Brown. I think he's better than Andrew Wiley. And sometimes, as we all know in free agency, you got to pay the piper.
Yeah, you overpay on the free agent market generally to get the guy that you want. And I generally think once we got past the ugliness of the first 2-3 weeks, where it did feel like every time he came to the line, he was under a microscope. I think once we move past that, we haven't discussed Juwan Taylor in the 6 intervening weeks. And when you're not discussing an offensive lineman, that means they're playing pretty good.
Yep.
By the way, for what it's worth, in terms of guaranteed money, Taylor is indeed a top 5 paid tackle in the league.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Guaranteed?
Yes. $60 million flat is second among right tackles. And when you factor in left tackles, it would be tied for 4th.
Okay.
Tied for 4th.
So if you want to say didn't live up to top 5 expectations, I can see that argument. But if the reason why is those type of penalties, I think you're reaching. I really, really do.
So Pro Football Focus, their grades for it, because that's the closest thing we have to stats for linemen outside of penalties. They had Taylor as by quite a bit, negative. All right, let me rephrase. For the entire balance of the season, they've got him as a below average tackle this year. Okay. 60 is their average grade. Currently, he's graded as a 53.2 for the season. Pass blocking is above average, run blocking way below average.
Yep.
The first 6 games of the season, he had 1 grade of average. Everything else overall was way below. Like, we're talking in the mid 40s, which if 60 is your average, mid 40s is bad. The last 3 weeks, though, 80, 65, 66. Above average to great each of the last 3 weeks.
And that dovetails, Jake, with the point you were making about, having a better understanding of the cadence, having a better understanding of the offense, what you need to do to give your quarterback the throwing lanes or the scrambling lanes that he's looking for.
All righty, so that's Juwan Taylor. What about Charles Omenihu? Do you give him an incomplete, or do you say... See, the reason why I'm not going to get too upset with Omenihu here is because the Chiefs knew he was going to get suspended.
Right.
They probably thought he was going to get 4 games, not 6, to be honest with you. That would be my guess. I bet the Chiefs were like, he'll get 4. We'll get him, for 13 games this year. We can do that. They knew that. So, to me, if the Chiefs were expecting Omenihu to play all 17, well, you're ridiculous, Brett Veach and Andy Reid and Clark Hunt, because you haven't been paying attention. So overall, for the games that he's played, I think he's been a good player for the Kansas City Chiefs. The rest of the way will determine it. But for now, I'm not going to hold that against Omenihu because the Chiefs knew he was going to be suspended.
It's kind of, I think I would call it almost a conditional pass or win there, because the defense was so good even without him that it didn't feel like, damn, they're really missing this guy. It just felt like it was something that got added on later.
But the first game that he played, he made an impact.
Yeah.
He made an impact.
So I just did the math really quickly and using the numbers from Pro Football Reference. He's only got 4, just ranked most to fewest pressures. He's only got 4 pressures through 3 games, but that's the same number of pressures per game as Mike Dana, who everybody would say is having a great season getting after the quarterback. So I think that's obviously a win for what he has been able to do so far.
So I think Taylor so far has been an improvement over last year, over Wiley and over Orlando Brown. I think Charles Omenihu.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I think Charles Omenihu is kind of incomplete, but I think he's going to play well the rest of this year. Donovan Smith. I think it's worked out because it's costing you $3 million. Like the cap is just so small for Donovan Smith that you're getting not great left tackle play. You're getting okay left tackle play, but because it's so cheap and the alternative is what? Lucas Niang,
Wanye Morris is a rookie. Yeah, like
Prince Tega Winoga. Like I'm okay with the Donovan Smith signing because it was so cheap and relative to what you're paying him, he's doing okay.
I think he has been, and I'd be interested to see if the PFF grades bear this out, but I think he's struggled more than Taylor has at right tackle. I don't think he's a caliber player that Taylor is. He's going through all the same things in the first half of the season that Taylor is. New system, new cadence, new quarterback, all those things. But I think that he has, like, the penalties are more of a problem for him. And last year they were a problem for him too. And a lot of that you looked at and said, well, that could have been the injury. He was playing with a pretty significant injury. Maybe that problem alleviates when he's a little healthier. And it really hasn't. And I think that's been the disappointing thing with regards to Donovan Smith. I certainly think that the Chiefs could have put themselves in a position to do worse. But I think, it's probably Andrew Wiley caliber play, only from the left tackle position, not the right tackle. So if you look at the tackle spots for the Chiefs this year, Brown and Wiley left to right versus Smith and Taylor left to right, probably about a wash would be my guess.
My guess is he's probably got 5 holding calls this year. He's probably good for almost 1 a game, to be honest with you. So that's okay for me because I'm not expecting, elite play. Your expectations matter in this. So I think he's been, to be honest with you, serviceable. I wouldn't think, the reason why the offense sometimes is bogged down is because of Donovan Smith.
Lucky you, we have the official numbers on how many holding penalties he has.
5?
3.
Yeah, that's not,
4 total penalties, 1 false start, 3 holds.
That's not bad. I'll take that. You do that the rest of the year, I'll be perfectly fine with that. Because it's Donovan Smith. Like, he's getting older. I got no problem with that. Then you look at the rest of them. Drew Tranquill.
A+.
Excellent. Edwards, free safety.
That's a win.
Excellent.
He's been good.
Jerick McKinnon.
I mean, yeah.
Anytime Jet's there, you're fine with it.
I wonder if he's going to end up just being 1-year deals until he retires.
He might.
I know running backs have a shelf life, but I mean, he is the perfect fit for his role.
We'll go with, ready? Derek Nottie. And
having his best year.
Contract year. Derek Nottie, great. Justin Watson.
Mahomes likes him.
Man, when he signed, they were like, why is he signing a 2-year deal? What is happening? Well,
I mean, 2 years, he's almost paying the Chiefs with how little he's making to the cap. So that's not an issue.
Watson's been a good signing. Blake Bell.
I mean,
the 1 fumble, not great.
Yeah, but
tight end 3.
Yeah, he's your third tight end.
So those are basically your free agents that you signed this offseason. And so Taylor, I would give him probably I would give Juwan Taylor a B-. I'd give a Menahu an incomplete. I give Donovan Smith a B-. I would give Tranquill, if I don't believe in extra credit, but I'd give him 100%. Edwards, I'd give an A. McKinnon an A. Watson an A. And Blake Bell a, keep being Patrick Mahomes' friend. that type of thing. Like overall, they don't have a big whiff to me.
Mhm.
I don't think Jawan Taylor is a big whiff that apparently CBS does.
No, and I mean, I think Joel Corey's a smart guy.
Yeah,
but
and maybe he's doing it relative to the money.
Yeah, because money equals expectations, right? In a lot of scenarios, and like as we talk about these different guys, there's different expectations for all of these guys.
Yeah, that's why
Jet McKinnon wasn't re-signed to be running back number one, right? So the expectation for Jawan Taylor, when you give a tackle $20 million, you'd like him to step in and be, a top end tackle. Yeah. I don't know that Taylor has been, but I also don't think that he's been bad.
Like
I think he made a bad first impression.
Are you going to lump Jawan Taylor's performance in with Tremaine Edmonds, Brandon Cooks? Odell Beckham is making $15 million.
No, that's one of the worst contracts in the NFL.
Like Jimmy Garoppolo, one is not, something is not like the other to me. So
can I make a real quick aside too, talking about Derek Nottie? I think more than anything, this is why I said Joe Cullen yesterday is the Chiefs' best assistant coach this year. Because this is not the first. This is in fact the third consecutive contract year for Derek Nottie. He was a free agent after 2021. He got a 1-year deal last year to come back to the Chiefs, and he's on a 1-year deal again this year.
So it's a second 1-year deal.
This is his second 1-year deal, but his third year in a row, he's been looking for a contract.
I'm with
second year with Cullen, though, and it's the best he's ever been.
Best he's been, you bet. Coming up next, real quick, special teams over-unders, and then we'll talk with Paul Myerberg on all things Big 12 football. We'll get to Paul Myerberg here in just a little bit. Coming up in the 3 o'clock hour, we'll talk about the potential free agents that the Chiefs are going to have to sign and rank them and who you would go after. So that'll be coming up today here on 580 Sports Talk. We got to finish up, though, our midseason over-unders. And let's roll first with Harrison Butker. All right, the kicker. Over-under 25 made field goals. Well, Butker's made 10. Don't think he's getting 15 the rest of the year.
Even with the Chiefs' red zone woes,
Yeah,
it's hard to imagine 15 in the next 8 games.
And that's not a knock on him. That's a knock on Chiefs' offense.
Yeah.
Punting more when you think about it. So the amount, not there. What about the percentage? Well, we put it at 86%. Well, he hadn't missed a kick yet.
Yeah, I think he's going to clear that. He's been automatic. You know.
Oh, wait a minute. I was wrong. I'm an idiot. Dan, I'm an absolute idiot.
What's that?
Real dumb.
Why is that?
Real dumb. I looked at the field goals from 30 to 39 as 10 for 10. I am really an idiot.
Yeah, he's 18 for 18.
Yeah. So
he's made 18 field. Okay.
Yeah. I'm an idiot.
Oh, do I think he can make 7 field goals in the last 8 games? Yes, he's going over. Yeah, he's going over. Man, he threw me off too.
Well, I'm an idiot. Cheapers. So he's 18 for 18. 100%. He's been terrific. 22 of 22. So, yeah, he'll get to the 25 made field goals. Right now, he's at 100%. Long. We set the over-under at a stupid 60 yards, and he's got a 60-yarder.
Yes, he does.
Push right now. How about that? I am a little upset Reed doesn't try like a 70-yarder at halftime. That bugs me a little bit. What about Tommy Townsend, our punter? His yards per punt is stupid. 48 yards per punt. But when you look at what we put for old Tommy, we want to know net punting. 44 net yards per punt, because that's what he was close at last year. He's pretty close to it this year. 43.3 net yards per punt, which is very good.
Mm-hmm.
That's excellent. Wanted to see punts inside the 20. Well, right now he's got 11 of them, so he's on pace for that. Long punt. We put the long at 68 yards.
And once again,
which is a boot.
Yes. And once again, we have a push.
A push, 68 yards.
Jake, you might need to go work in Vegas. Somebody might want to hire you.
Hey,
put some of these numbers on the board.
Hey, I'm just letting you know right now that I went 4-1 with our picks. We'll get to that tomorrow. I'm heavily in the black on our picks. And he hasn't got one blocked. Put the over under at a half. So that's our special teams over unders. Coming up next, we're going to hear from Paul Myerberg, talk all things Big 12 football. joining us here on 580 Sports Talk as he does everything single Thursday to enlighten us on the college football world. And speaking of college football, Dan, I've got not one, not two, not three, but four. That's right, a family 4-pack of tickets to the K-State Baylor game. We're going to be giving those away coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. So if you want to go watch the Cats take on the Bears, be listening in the 4 o'clock hour. You have a chance to get 4 tickets right from 580 Sports Talk for free 99, no charge. And we're going to talk all things K-State, KU, Big 12 with our man, Paul Myerberg. You can follow him on Twitter at Paul Myerberg from USA Today. He's one of the best out there in the biz. Paul, let's start with K-State. K-State, Texas, it was 27-7. Now all of a sudden it's 27-27, missed field goal, but they force overtime. They force a field goal. K-State's got it first and goal from the 6. Did you think that they were going to pull off the big upset, and how do you assess that final possession?
Yeah, guys, golly. Well, look, I want to take a step back, right? There's something enormously disappointing about another missed opportunity, right? And you're looking at 7 in a row, 7 chances where you had an opportunity to send Texas out on a low note. So there's a lot of things that you want to take out of that from a negative perspective. Still, guys, like, I want to try to be positive, right? You're down 20 points on the final play of the third quarter, and you force overtime against the number 7 team in the country. Should they have won the game? Absolutely. But I still think that there's a lot of positives to take out of this matchup. The negatives, of course, are pretty clear, and you can't ignore them. You're not going to play for Big 12 championship, very likely. You're not going to get to a New Year's Six bowl. And at the end of the year, I do think that Kansas State is 10-3, having run the table the rest of the way and then beaten another Power 5 team in a bowl game. Yeah, you'll look back at this, you'll look back at Missouri, and you'll think, man, a missed opportunity. We could have been in the Sugar Bowl, whatever the New Year's Six bowl they could have been. So there's an aspect of that you feel like you have a missed chance. But I don't want to sweat this one too much. Kansas State's a really good football team. They had chances here. You know, they came back in the fourth quarter against the top 10 team in the country, and I want to give them credit for that. But yeah, this is a disappointing result because this clearly could have been won. I'm just not going to say it should have been won. I give Kansas State a lot of credit for making it to that point, if nothing else.
Do you have a problem with the play sequence, the run, get it to the 4, and then 3 straight passes from the 4, and then going for it on 4th and 3 for the win against kicking the field goal and playing for another overtime?
No, this is like, I don't have a problem with that situation at all. Now, look, like, the sequence of plays, like, I don't really like to get into the business unless it's especially egregious. And like, we would never talk about this on this show, but like, if there's a situation like Colorado, for example, played Oregon State on Saturday, it was 7-3. They were in their own end zone at the end of the first half. They screwed up because they called 2 passing plays with Shador running for his life, kicked it back to Oregon State. They scored it with a second left to make it 14-3 at halftime. That's an egregious coaching decision. I don't think this one was particularly egregious. In the bigger picture, I love going for it for the win. And I think more coaches, when they're on the road with a situation to win the game as an underdog, you do go for it in that case. So I don't really sweat that one too much. Like I said, like, you can get boiled down to the minutia of this loss and really let it boil you and you can seethe over it. But I want to take a step back and realize that they made this a game and they could have won it. I just don't want to think for a moment that Kansas State should have won this game. They had chances to do it. But these are not games that you're going to win every time. And I think 98% of the country, down 27-7 with 20 or 19 minutes left in this game, are going to lose by 30. They're not going to come back the way Kansas State did. So I want to focus on the positives for them. They can turn this into something good and still have a really good top 20 season, even if you're kind of smirking or licking your wounds a little bit coming out of it if you're Kansas State.
If you're K-State, you take on a Baylor team this Saturday. Baylor's not good. Do you worry at all about the Texas loss beating them twice?
No, I don't. I think they come out and they beat the heck out of Baylor, as they should. I really think they do. Baylor, like you said, they're terrible. They're at a point now where you begin to consider the fact that Dave Aranda is simply not the right guy to see this program into the future. When you're losing in overtime to a Houston team, which is garbage, to me, that's really worrisome. So Baylor, to me, is looking at an 8 or 9 win or an 8 or 9 loss season. Kansas State, they're a 3-touchdown favorite. They should just decimate Baylor. Baylor is weak. Kansas State needs to show how strong they are as a program. And the way to do that is to go out and beat the heck out of Baylor. And I really think they should.
All right, let's go to the team that everybody thought was going to lose, but me. I took the Hawks. I thought the Hawks were going to get it done, Paul. How do you evaluate the Hawks' big win on the road against Iowa State?
Yeah, so I think there's two things, right? Number one is this, Iowa State plays a style of football that is not unique. They certainly are not reinventing the wheel, but it is different. And it's different because it's a little bit more traditional. They don't play at the same sort of tempo. They're a little bit more dialed back to the teams that Kansas has played week after week after week after week. So I really like their performance. Was it perfect? No. Was the offense perfect? No. I think Iowa State was able to muddy the waters a bit on the defensive side of it and make things a little difficult. But I love that KU stayed addicted to a running game. They still ran the ball 35 plus times, and I still think that Jason Bean, when put in that situation, is going to be successful, as he was, made no real mistake. So I like that performance. I put a lot of stock into it. Is it as impressive or equally impressive as beating Oklahoma? No. But it is in the ballpark because of the idea that you're coming off of some highs. You have to go into a tough environment against a physical, tough team that had been playing very well, especially on defense, and basically kind of kept Iowa State at arm's length for most of the second half. So I give Kansas a lot of credit. This is a really good football team. And really good football teams, what separates them from just good ones is the ability to adapt and evolve against your specific opponent. And I thought Kansas adapted to meet what Iowa State was allowing them to do. And it was a solid win, not a beautiful one, but a really, really nice win. One of, again, this just hammer it home. Kansas is 7-2. We've been doing this all together long enough that I want us to focus on the fact that they are 7-2. They're winning road games in tough places against some of the best defenses in the Big 12 or in the Power 5. And that's incredible to me. So they are not just a really good team. They're incredibly well coached. I really, really value this one. I thought it was really impressive.
Paul Myerberg is our guest. He covers all things college football for USA Today. You can find him on Twitter at Paul Myerberg, and of course, all of his great writing in USA Today and at usatoday.com. It's the Big 12 breakdown here on 580 Sports Talk on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Based on, Paul, the fact that he didn't turn the ball over at all in the game and the fact that he averaged well over 10 yards per attempt in the contest as well, do you think that was the best we've seen from Jason Bean yet for Kansas?
For me, it felt like the most secure game that he had played. As he was going through that game, and you look at his 3 starts, or I guess his 4 starts if you go back to September, of all the games that I've seen him play this season, it felt like the one where he was in the most command. And it helps when you hit an 80-yard pass, and it helps when you don't need to really do much on the ground and you can focus on what you're doing in the pocket. But yeah, I really like the way that he played. Not as explosive as Oklahoma State, and not nearly as as productive maybe on a touchdown basis, however you want to measure it. But this was a really good game by Bean, and yeah, I don't disagree. I think this was the best game that he played overall in terms of what they needed him to do, which was not turn the ball over, be careful on third down, deliver downfield. I thought Bean was really, really good. I mean, not good enough to not let Daniels get the job back when he's ready, but I thought he played very well.
Last night on his coach's show, Lance Leipold responded to some not super well-sourced rumors about him possibly interviewing for the Michigan State job. And he said, this is the only interview I've done. I haven't done one with any other school. And I plan for this to be the final job that I take in my career. Now, he is 60 years old. There's not a lot of opportunities out there for head coaches who are, well, almost 60 years old anyway, about to be 60. I know that happens and you hear it from coaches all the time. But does it feel at all like this situation might be different? And for a guy who's accomplished what he's accomplished at KU, the power he has in that program and his age as well, does it feel like maybe it's different? This is it for Leipold, that it's Kansas and then retirement?
It seems more likely than most guys. It just really does. You hear this a lot. And when you hear it from some people, you roll your eyes because you know it's bull and you know that guy doesn't mean it. He's just kind of doing what he has to do and saying what he has to say. But I think you listed a couple reasons why this is valid. He's been a zigger, not a zagger throughout his entire coaching career. He has taken an orthodox path to get here. He's in a happy place in terms of where he wants to be in the country. KU has enormous facility upgrades happening in the near future. They are in a position where they could be a real factor in the future Big 12. I mean, every single year going forward. So, yeah, I believe him. Things could happen. Things could open up that change his mind. Certainly at 63 or 64 in a couple of years, you're still young enough where you could take one more gig and do 8-7 years. So I don't want to say it's 100%, but He's one of the few guys in this profession, when he says something like that, I tend to believe it. So that's great news for KU. And look, going forward, as long as he's there, there's a ceiling. This is not going to be a 15-0 program, but there is certainly reason to think that they can get better and better and better and get to a point where this is annually a top 25 team. So super excited for the future of Kansas.
Joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline is Paul Myerberg of USA Today, covers college football for them, and joins us on Thursdays for the Big 12 Breakdown here on 580 Sports Talk. Check out Paul's work again in USA Today, online, and on Twitter at Paul Myerberg. Paul, we referred to the big games in the Big 12 last week as something like conference championship game semifinals. Oklahoma State won Bedlam. Texas took down Kansas State. And those two programs seem in pole position to potentially meet in Arlington in December. Any concerns about a letdown game for either of those teams heading out on the road? Oklahoma State only a 2.5-point favorite against UCF. Texas on the road at TCU.
I'm not concerned about TCU. Quinn Ewers is going to play Saturday. I give Sarkisian really a lot of credit for the way that he got Murphy ready to go. I don't think Malik Murphy is prepared whatsoever to be a Power 5 starting quarterback right now for a team that wants to win a Big 12 or play for the New Year's Six. But I thought that the way that they filled things out for him made a lot of sense. So I give him credit for that. But Ewers is a different player. Texas at TCU, I think TCU is who they are. They're a 6-6 at best. So I think Texas wins that game. I'm as surprised as you guys to see that spread at UCF. I was talking to a colleague about it yesterday. I don't know what to make of it. UCF has played better than their record. They nonetheless have not beaten anybody of consequence, certainly in Big 12 play. So I don't know what to say about that. I think if Oklahoma State, coming off of Oklahoma, there's like you said before about Kansas State, there's an opportunity for a mental letdown, but they just got to give Ollie Gordon the ball 30 times, and they should be fine. But I can't make any sense of it. I really got to be honest. I thought Oklahoma State would be a touchdown or more favorite against one of the bottom 4 or 5 teams in the conference.
If you had to vote right now, who is the Big 12 Coach of the Year? Is it Lance Leipold? Is it Mike Gundy? Or is it other?
Yeah, I think it's Gundy. And not to say that what Leipold hasn't done, again, is impressive. I think there were some people who thought that they could do this, get to 8 wins this year. I think 7, it was 7 for me. So I'm not going to discount that. I think it's Gundy because of the fact of how far they've come. They've won 5 in a row, coming off that awful stretch in September. They are narrowing their focus towards appearing in the Big 12 championship game. It's certainly not a lock, but they can get there closer and closer every week. They'll take a big step forward if they can win on Saturday. So I feel good about saying Gundy, even though I know Leipold has an argument. And look, I think Sark's got an argument too. You know, you win at Alabama, you weather 2-0 without Ewers. You've got a defense that's back in really good shape. I give Sark also in there, maybe third, but I go Gundy number 1 over Leipold right now.
Cincinnati is at Houston this Saturday. That's not our dumpster juice pick of the week, but it's certainly the Big 12 dumpster juice game of the week. Then they go to West Virginia before wrapping up their regular season with a home game against Kansas. It is entirely possible that Cincinnati could lose out. If they do lose out, is Scott Satterfield's job in jeopardy even after just 1 year?
I don't think it's in jeopardy, but I think it's in a situation where he's going to start next season on the wrong side of job security. They were 2-0 at one point. It turns out that Pittsburgh's terrible, so we might have overrated their 2-0 a bit. But if they end the year on a 10-game losing streak, it's not just whether he will lose his job this offseason. I don't really think that's realistic. It's more about this. Like, not only are you going to go into next year with everybody hating you in Cincinnati and everyone rooting for you to fail, just history tells us that you're going to fail. Like, it's not just that he walked into a place that had won 50 games the last 5 years. When you go 2-10 your first year in a Power 5 league and your name isn't Lance Leipold, typically things are going to go really bad for you in the future. So it's like you're almost just waiting out the clock. So I don't envy Cincinnati. I think it's a terrible situation. They made a terrible hire in the first place, so I don't feel too bad for them. But it's in a spot where you're just going to play out the string. I do not believe for a second that Satterfield could oversee a group that loses 10 in a row his first year, and based off his track record, like turn them back into the Cincinnati of the last 5. I just don't see it. So they won't fire him this year, but it's like, hey, might as well, because you're going to do it eventually.
Speaking of our dumpster juice pick of the week, Paul, not super deep pickings this week. This isn't quite the SEC versus FCS week, so there's not a ton of options out there. So this week, I'm going to go with one UAB at Navy. You got the Fighting Trent Dilfers against a Navy team that really hasn't inspired a whole lot of confidence in their first year post Ken Niumatalolo. Who you got?
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say this. I got half of last week
Yeah.
because I'm starting to do the over and the under now. Scale me out. But I got to tell you guys, like, that was Tulsa should have won that game. And I'm spending too much of my time on Saturdays watching terrible football, freaking out because these guys got to get it done. Okay, so Navy, UAB. UAB can do something that Navy cannot do, which is put the ball into the end zone. So they scored 45 points last week. They scored 40-something a couple weeks back. I think it was against South Florida or Memphis. They're not a good team, but they can score. Navy just simply cannot score. So I'm going to go with UAB in this one. I don't think UAB is going to put 40 on them because Navy can defend a bit, but I'm going to go with UAB. As much as I don't want to, because I am not rooting whatsoever for Trent Dilfer. I would not be upset if he flopped in a huge and hugely embarrassing way, but I like UAB to win this one.
Is there any particular reason for that?
My interaction with Trent Dilfer have been so bad over the years, just so painful and so awkward and so just unenjoyable that I'm not a huge fan. Not to mention, I just feel like Deion had coached in college, you know? Deion was at Jackson State. Like, I understand it's Jackson State, but he had coached in college.
Mm-hmm.
Trent Dilfer was like at a private high school somewhere in Tennessee or North Carolina somewhere. So I just didn't like the idea that he got the promotion. There are too many good coaches in college working their butts off who earned that job over Dilfer.
All righty. Right now, Paul, if you were the playoff committee, who would you have as your 4? Not what you think it will be. You're in charge. You are football czar. Who's the 4?
My 4, if I do it right now, and this is the order, I put Georgia would be number 1. I would have Michigan number 2. I would have Ohio State number 3. And then I would have Washington number 4. I think Washington's win against Oregon is being overlooked by the committee because they are looking for a reason to kind of dock Washington because of Arizona State, because of Arizona, and because of Stanford. So they're looking for a reason to put them behind Florida State. That would be my 4 as of today. I'll just tell you this is a freebie. My 4 at the end of the day, Oregon's going to get in that top 4 because they are too good to be left out. So I think eventually it'll be Oregon in that group. We're like a week away, by the way. We'll talk about this next week, about this Texas and Alabama thing getting real serious about 2 12-1 teams on the on the first Sunday of December and their debate for the playoff. But that's what I would do as of right now. But we could talk about this more next week.
Paul, I said this earlier this week. I want like 7 teams to be 12-1. That's what I want. So the committee has to deal with that. Like, I want Washington, Oregon, Bama, Texas, Georgia, Florida State, Michigan, Ohio State. I want them all 1 loss, baby.
It's possible. It's possible. We'll get there. This is a big weekend coming up. We'll know more in a couple of days.
Paul, we appreciate the time.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you next week.
Paul Myerberg, USA Today. Oregon's really good.
They are really good.
By the way, if you just pick Oregon to cover, you're good. They're destroying people. They put up 63 on Cal.
Yeah.
15.5-point favorites against 14.5 in some places.
Against
USC?
Yeah.
Oregon is 7-1-1 against the spread. Yep. That is the second best record in the game.
Coming up, we'll get to more 580 Sports Talk. Sports Talk coming to you on this Thursday. Thank you so much for stopping by. Jake Levon, Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero with you. We're going to talk with Rick Peterson on all things high school prep football in our Lewis Toyota High School Whip Around. Some fantastic games coming up. Really should be a lot of fun. Two city teams going to be playing here. Topeka Hayden will be hosting. Oh, no, they're on the road to Parsons. Beg your pardon. Beg your Parsons.
Boo.
No, that was not a good one. Not a good one. Okay, we'll keep trying.
Didn't love it.
We'll
Love it.
keep
Yeah,
trying.
Hayden is at Parsons.
Yeah, they're at Parsons.
Everybody but Washburn Rural, in fact, is on the road.
Yeah, because they're the only higher seed because Seaman and the T-Birds going to be both on the road. But it should be a lot of fun. We'll talk with Rick Peterson. He is going to guarantee victories for all of the city teams. I'm excited for that.
When I think pistol, I think over-the-top bold prediction.
Yes, that's what I do.
Heights. Thankfully for both Seaman and for Shawnee Heights, neither is to go all that far.
Care Paravel, they at home?
Actually, that's a great question. I haven't checked in if the Lions are at home. No, they're on the road. They're in Cottonwood Falls, playing Chase County.
Ooh, that's another good one.
That is a game I believe Care Paravel already won this season.
That's going to be good. A lot of good football games. So we're going to get to that.
Yeah, they beat Chase County by 36 when they first played.
Whew. Care Paravel.
How about that?
They're a wagon this year. Hop on them.
If they win, they would get a rematch in Substate, probably with Linden. Linden has a tough game. They're playing West Elk. Linden is one of just 2 losses for Care Paravel this year. The other one was Axtell, and there's no shame in losing to Axtell.
Axtell's a wagon.
That's
too.
fine.
Yeah.
No one.
They won what, 2 years in a row?
If not more.
2, I think.
Is it just 2? They have the state's longest win streak now that Andale lost.
Yep.
They have given up all. How about this? A little fact for you.
Central's got to be up there, right? Win streak?
They would have had a loss within the last couple of years.
They won. They went. I think they ran the rack last year, and they're undefeated this year, so they're close. But they haven't won 2 in a row.
But yeah, I mean, 2021 they would have had a loss.
Yeah.
This season, Axtell, since week 2, has allowed. And I got to do the math here. They allowed 26 regular season points from there, and they have allowed something even ridiculous in the postseason. They've allowed 6 points in the playoffs so far. So they've allowed 32 points since week 1, but in week 1, they gave up 44 to Care Paravel. So Care Paravel is the only team to even be in the same zip code in a game with Axtell this year. That tells you how good Doug Bunura's team is this season.
No, this is going to be a fun Friday night. It really will. It looks like the weather's going to be good. That's a positive.
Love to hear it.
So, and it needs to be. It needs to be.
Another good one in the area. I should point out the defending 1A champs, St. Mary's, are at home against Colgan.
Yeah,
a team they beat last year. Colgan was really beat up. I think a lot of people thought Colgan was going to take care of business. They had some injuries. St. Mary's went down to Pittsburgh and rolled them on their way to the state championship. So Colgan's coming back to Pottawatomie County in search of revenge. But St. Mary's hasn't lost to a 1A team this year.
Yep.
They went 0-3 against 2A and 3A teams, and they've been a wagon against 1A teams.
Yeah.
In the last 2 years, then,
The Bears.
I'm pretty sure that makes, they even have the Bears alternate logo as their bear head logo.
See, the Bears are nice.
That's something like, I can't even do the math, like 20-0 in their last games against 1A schools or
Good for
something.
them.
They
St.
just
Mary's.
have dominated
Good
that
stuff.
class. And they're doing it with a totally different roster this year.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
6 kids are back from last year.
Yeah, that's impressive stuff. So we'll get to that. We'll talk a little baseball. That's right.
Bobby Witt Jr., 10 years, $40 million. If he was a Brave, he would already have that contract.
40?
Yeah, $40 million.
Oh,
If he was a Brave.
I thought you were talking about 10 years, 40 million total. Like,
Yeah,
no,
no,
he's
that
not.
that is what I'm saying. Yeah. If he was a Brave, that's what they would pay him, and he would sign that deal.
That's $4 million a year.
That's what Ozzy Albies is making.
Yeah. We'll get into that. Right now, though,
How do they keep doing it?
the battery, man. It's the battery.
Ozzy Albies got 7 years, $35 million.
Hey, he's an idiot.
That's outrageous.
No, it's good for the Braves.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's good for the Braves. I think a lot of people believe that they're like taking advantage of foreign-born players with these deals, but yeah.
That's the biz, man. This is a business. Get better representation.
Wonder if Scott Boras speaks Spanish.
You know he does.
Ozzy Albies, though, speaks like 14 languages. I learned that from MLB The Show because that's the only thing they have to say about Ozzy Albies.
That's impressive.
It's not
Do you
14. I think it's 4.
Dang. Like fluent in 4?
Yeah. English, Spanish,
Portuguese?
Dutch, and Papiamentu.
Well, naturally.
Well, that's because
I can invent a language and say it. Nah, that's mean.
I don't even know what that is.
I've
it's
never
a
heard- I've never heard of-
Creole mix of Spanish and Portuguese that's spoken in Curacao and Aruba.
I didn't know he was from Curacao.
Yeah. Yeah, he is. He plays for the Dutch team in the
Yeah?
World Baseball Classic.
The Kingdom of the Netherlands.
Get a better agent then.
I'm not disagreeing.
Speaking of agents, every one of these guys that we're going to talk about right now is going to say to their agent, "What should I get?" How about that segue, guys? We're going to talk about the Kansas
Not
City
bad.
Chiefs.
Yeah, I'll give it a B-.
Thank you. Kansas City Chiefs free agents going into next year. All right. There are a lot of them, y'all. I was going through it. I'm like, oh, I forgot about him. Oh, I forgot about him. Ooh, yep. Him. Yeah, him too. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. There's a lot of them. Offense and defense. All right. We'll start with the defense. We'll say, would you offer them a contract? Do you think they will sign with the Chiefs or like to keep them? No chance, though. All right, let's start. Mike Dana.
That's the guy who I would say I would like to keep him, but I don't think I think he's played his way out of a contract. Plus, you got FAU. You've got Felix DK Uzama, who I think will take over that edge 3 role next season.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's going to be one of those guys. Gets kind of like the Emmanuel Ogba Super Bowl champ bump type of contract. That's what you have to consider about a lot of these guys. I mean, we anticipate the Chiefs making a deep playoff run, and that helps your value when you hit the market. If you've been on a team that has recently been a champion.
Now, to let you know, the Chiefs have, according to Over the Cap, $51 million in space next year. Keep in mind. Now, according to Spotrac, which is another site, if you will, the Kansas City Chiefs will have they'll have more cap space according to Spotrac than they have the Chiefs with where am I at here? Ooh, they have less actually, beg your pardon. Maybe it was flipped. They've got them with 31 million in cap space.
I imagine the two sites are adding something differently or are accounting for something differently here.
Yep. So keep that in mind. And the Chiefs will gain $12 million in cap space when they cut MVS. Okay. So whatever it is, add $10 million to it. So instead of
I wonder if they're still going to do that for what it's worth.
he ain't worth a $15 million cap hit.
No, but I wonder if they would restructure it instead.
Maybe.
At a void year. I mean, you've got to figure out something with that wide receiver room.
He ain't playing on a $14 or $15 million cap hit.
No, I do agree with that.
So you can add 10 to it no matter what.
Yeah.
So if it's 51, then say 61. So, alrighty. Dana, you want to keep,
I don't think they'll keep him.
Okay. Derek Nottie.
I would be open to re-signing Derek Nottie.
Okay.
He's
not going to make a lot of money. Like, obviously, they brought him back the last couple of years. Good relationship there. I'd kick the tires. I don't think he's going to be like a long-term, big multi-million a year type of player. Although he is having a great year, so maybe that changes. But I'd have conversations with Nottie.
It's not going to cost a whole lot. He made $1 million this year.
I think he will get paid more than that next year. But yeah, I would certainly be open to it.
I am with you. I think Dana's going to be gone. I think they'd maybe keep him if a Menahu. They got a Menahu though. So your three big guns next year are pass rush wise, FAU, Karlaftis, a Menahu, and then maybe somebody else. Maybe somebody cheap. But I don't rule out Dana though, because, and we're gonna get to the next one, Chris Jones. I don't think they're keeping Chris Jones.
That's a tag and trade. I mean,
they're going to tag him and they're going to trade him.
Lord knows we've spilled enough.
Spilled
enough oxygen on the Chris Jones situation.
So I think they'll tag him. They have enough cap space to do it, and then they'll get off the books, and then you can make it work. But I think that they will tag him, trade him. I don't think he'll be with the Chiefs. But maybe that'll be your fourth, because you need four good D linemen nowadays, and that would be your fourth. You'd have FAU, Karlaftis, Omenahu, and then the new guy, and then maybe a draft pick. Maybe that's what they just do. They just, instead of signing Jones, they sign somebody differently.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to get rid of Chris Jones one way or the other, which I don't necessarily disagree that that's going to happen, I would be much more concerned with the interior play than I would be with the edge. I mean, the edge group is fine from there. I would have many more concerns about finding a pass rushing defensive tackle.
So that's your defensive line, but I even forgot Tershawn Wharton.
Might be able to get him for the low, but then again, maybe it's the same as Colin Saunders, where he decides, change of scenery, can play a little bit more somewhere else.
Yeah. Willie Gay. Willie Gay has played himself into this is an interesting. If you would have told me at the beginning of the year, I would have said, Willie Gay's fine. We can move on. But here's the thing. They've got three linebackers right now who play a lot. It is Gay, it is Bolton, and it is Tranquil. Two of those guys are going to be gone if you don't re-sign one of them. I don't know what Willie Gay is going to get in the open market, but he's now, to me, more of an interesting guy. If you can get him at a decent middle linebacker price, I wouldn't be opposed to it. He has come a long way from his rookie year. Now, granted, remember, from Mississippi State, he was drafted during COVID, didn't really have a good rookie year because he had no, off-season workouts, and then he's gotten progressively better, but he has been better than what I thought this year. If they choose to move on, I do get it, but then what's going to end up happening at the linebacker spot? I don't think Chanel is an every down linebacker.
He might not be. He's a little bit more limited. I would be, again, open to a new deal with Willie Gay, but if I had to prognosticate what the Chiefs are going to do, I think they're going to let both Tranquil and Gay walk. I think it's going to be another 1-year free agent signing and a draft pick, if I had to guess what they'll do for their four linebackers. Plus, Bolton's going to get a big deal. At some point, Nick Bolton's going to get a long-term contract.
Do you
with
think
this
that's
team.
the guy?
I think that is the only guy who's going to get a major deal. You've still got Chanel for 2 more seasons on the cheap. I think you're going to do another veteran like a Tranquil signing, and then you'll draft someone else.
So, same thing?
Yeah, I kind of think, they let Tranquil go. Gay, I'd love to bring him back, but
I love his game.
Yeah, I think he's a really good fit for what they do, and I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to bring him back.
Tranquil, same thing. I think his age is the biggest issue there.
Chiefs don't keep a lot of guys who are approaching 30 on defense, especially guys who weren't homegrown.
No. I was bummed that he signed a 1-year deal. I've said that many times, but he's going to be 29 next year. I just don't see that happening for the Kansas City Chiefs. All right. L'Jarius Sneed. History says Brett Veach is not going to do it because he's able to find corners. That is his bread and butter. He can find a corner. I mean, if you look at it, he signed free agents Bashad Breeland, the Chiefs Super Bowl champ Bashad Breeland. Found him, right? Shavarius Ward, Veach found him on a trade for good old Parker Enger. Finds L'Jarius Sneed in the 4th round as a safety at, La Tech. Then you go with McDuffie. Then you go with Williams. You go with Watson. They really like Shamari Connor. Because you're not bringing Jones back, and this is predicated on not bringing Jones back, I think there's money that you can spend. They're going to have to spend money somewhere this offseason because they're going to have $60 million. And if they're not bringing back Dana, they're not bringing back Jones, they're not going to bring back Gay or Tranquil, where are you spending your money here? Like, I don't know. Maybe it's on the offensive side. But I am now more open to giving L'Jarius Sneed money. But the reason why I'm not thinking the Chiefs will is because, 1, he's an older player, and 2, Brett Veach just, and they really like
Connor.
And also, you got to remember, who's the guy who got hurt this year who actually was going to be above Jalen Watson and Josh Williams? Nazeeh Johnson. So that's another factor if he comes back off his ACL.
I think Sneed strikes me as somebody that they would go to a certain number in years to bring him back, but they're not going over it. And if somebody else is going to give him more than what the Chiefs are willing to give him, they will wish him well. That's what it feels like to me. And that's an upgrade. Like, that is not how I would have answered this question going into the season, because with the injury concern around his knee and the fact that he hardly practiced at all during training camp.
Awesome.
Yeah. But the fact that he's been this good this year has really been eye-opening. And he is really important to what Steve Spagnuolo's defense does. It's hard to reproduce all of the things that he does. And if the cap's going up, there's money to be spent. And I would argue right now, even though I'm a fan of Chris Jones, I think he's a great player, if Brett Veach has one splurge available to him on the defensive side of the ball, I almost think it should be Sneed and not Jones.
Also, I don't think Sneed is going to cost.
Corners never cost as much as pass rushers.
Not compared to. I'm just talking like, I don't think Sneed is going to cost you, Jair Alexander money or Jalen Ramsey money, or
probably not.
You know what I mean? So I think you're going to get maybe more bang for your buck with. The only reason I'm hesitant on saying yes is that's just not what Veach does. Like, he goes to the garage sale for corners. Mike Edwards.
I'd consider it. Yeah. I don't think it will happen for what it's. Again, It's just a guy who's
playing really well, but I think always kind of meant to be a 1-year stopgap.
Those are your defensive guys right now. If you look at it, starter Dana, starter Noddy, starter Jones, backup Wharton, starter Gay. So you got Dana, Noddy, Jones. Well, Noddy now with a Menahu back, that he's probably not a starter, but Dana, Gay, Tranquil, Sneed, and Edwards. That's almost half your defense you're going to have to replace next year if you don't bring any of those guys back. Offensively, not as many free agents. Jet McKinnon, you bringing him back for another go?
Absolutely. Yeah.
If he's got the juice, I think you do. And I think McKinnon's only going to play for the Chiefs. I
kind of what it feels like.
Yeah.
The way his free agency went last year, it's very clear that, hey, we want you back. We'll pay you. You have a role for us that is defined. And if that's something that McKinnon desires at this point in his career, don't imagine why it wouldn't be. Hey, I can play third downs and catch passes from Patrick Mahomes and win a bunch of games. That's a pretty good deal.
Yep. Blake Bell.
I mean, I'm sure they will talk to him about it. I mean, if he's going to take a vet minimum, I'm sure they would bring him back.
Yep.
But
I think
he might retire. 31, he may hang it up.
At some point in time, though, that $1 million might be best invested somewhere else.
No, it's just there are certain guys, and I think every team is like this. The Chiefs definitely are. That if you're going to be for cheap, we'll keep you around as long as you want to play.
How old is Jet? Hold on, let me look it up.
McKinnon, he's in his 30s.
Man,
He's 31, I
he's gonna
think.
be 32 next year.
Yeah.
Man, good effort, Jet. Blaine Gabbert, you gotta have a backup quarterback. Who's it gonna be? Bringing him back?
Hey, they cut I almost called him Steve Buechele. Jar. They cut Shane Buechele so they could have a veteran backup.
Yep.
They value having a veteran backup. Gabbert's that guy until he doesn't want to be, I think.
Yep, I think he's the Chad Henne guy. Yep. Alrighty. Brendan's boy, McCole Hardman. And bringing him back?
No.
Yeah, get ready to learn CFL, buddy. Get him out of here.
Richie James.
No.
Nope.
Barely remember he's on the team.
Donovan Smith.
Probably not.
No,
No.
probably not.
You got to find a long-term option there, though.
And left tackle, yes.
The whole entire hope for the Chiefs, and I think a lot of their offensive and their off-season decision-making, I think so much of it is going to rely on one guy, Wanya Morris. If Wanya Morris can play left tackle, the Chiefs' offense is in a good spot because he's crazy cheap at left tackle, but I don't know if he can do it. That's a huge, like, if they feel comfortable that Mahomes isn't going to get destroyed, that's a big, big ability to put a rookie second-year guy there making peanuts, and he's above average or quality.
I agree with you, and I don't know what they see in him during practice every week. I hope it works out. I will say this, though. If they are 99% or less sure that he's the guy, you should be willing to spend your first-round pick on a left tackle. Anything below 100%, you should be willing to spend a first-round pick on a left tackle.
And the reason why I'm okay with that is because you ain't signing both Creed and Trey Smith. Okay, you're not going to pay 3 dudes on the offensive line. You can't. Like you just can't do that. I don't think you're going to pay Taylor. Like if they want to go Taylor, Creed, and you still got Tooney next year, and then the rookie because he's cheap. I got no problem with that. That's 2 guys. You know, because Tooney's been on the books for a while. I'm talking about new stuff because Creed and Trey Smith are the same. You know, so that's a big one. Nick Allegretti, you bringing him back?
He seems to be one of those, hey, contracts here if you want it types.
Hey, here's $1 million. Be a backup guard.
He's the highest graded offensive lineman on the Chiefs, according to PFF.
Right.
So he can also play multiple spots, which is honestly probably his best value.
He's super valuable, knows what he is. I think the Chiefs would be happy.
And see, that's why the O-line is in a really good spot. Because if you look at this, McKinnon, you know, he can come back. Gabbert, backup. Hardman, not going to be there. James, not going to be there. Smith, not going to be there. Allegretti, sure. Like, the majority of their offense is there.
Yeah.
Will they go out and get somebody else? That's the question. Lastly, he paid a punter.
If there's one to pay, I think it's him.
You're gonna pay.
Continuity in special teams has been pretty valuable for the Chiefs over the years. They had a lot of continuity at the punter spot with Colquitt for what felt like forever. Why not maintain that? Punters aren't that expensive. They don't hit your cap too hard.
What do you think his cap is hit right now?
$500,000.
$2,250.
$2,250.
I don't know where that came from.
What if I told you it's $2.6 million?
That's fine.
Yeah.
Pocket change.
So
I will say this. Are you keeping Harrison Butker on his current contract?
he'll make 4.5. Man, I'm telling you.
It's a lot to spend on special teams, but you know how much Andy Reid values that part of the game.
But I look at this. I value kickers, not so much punters. I value kickers as closers, okay? Are you in the thick of it? Do you think the Chiefs are going to be in the hunt next year?
Yeah.
Then I'm okay paying a kicker. And he's a good one. He makes 90% of his field goals. He's made so many clutch kicks. If you stink, you don't need a whatever kicker. But if you're going to try to win a Super Bowl, you need a kicker. And I have no problem paying $4.5 million for a kicker.
Well, okay. My point was going to be you're paying one or the other.
Oh, then I'm paying the kicker.
So I would pay one or the other. Yeah. So I would be fine letting Townsend.
I guess that's true because while Colquitt was on the team, the Chiefs did do the roulette, the kicker roulette. They ran through guys, Cairo Santos, Ryan Suckup. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and then they got Butker.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
I got no problem with paying the kicker 4.5. I don't.
Not this one.
No.
That's honestly not even all that much.
No. Coming up next, we got a little either or over under. Over under 20 minutes of you watching Thursday Night Football tonight.
Well, I'll be traveling, but if I were at home, it would be an under.
By the way, it's Carolina versus the Bears.
Who's playing quarterback for the Bears tonight?
It's
Bajent.
Is it Bajent?
Reppin'.
Secret Bajent man?
Yeah.
Did we settle on Bajent as that
As
appears
far
to
as
be
I'm aware,
the correct
yeah.
pronunciation?
Yeah. Over.
Bajent Orange.
Over. No. I'm going to the Nashville Knights thing tonight.
Do you know what we're going to be able to do on like April 13th of next year? Not
April
watch football.
13th. I'd be watching the Royals.
By mid-February, we will not have football. We don't have that much of it during the course of the year. Yes, I'm absolutely going to watch. Now, I will say
action tonight instead of Thursday Night Football. There's got to be a college game on that means more.
Isn't Louisville playing tonight?
Louisville.
Tonight, yeah, Louisville plays Virginia. Louisiana plays Southern Miss. No Maction. Maction's usually just Tuesday, Wednesday.
Well, there's a Thursday, even though I hate Louisville. Only speaking because they cost me
Gambling,
loss.
right.
Yeah, that's right.
Stupid loss
No, I'm
to
gonna.
Pitt.
Tonight is also the finale of Big Brother, which Abby will be watching.
Yeah.
So I don't know what our TV scenario is going to be, but yeah, I'm gonna watch tonight.
Yeah, no, Nashville Knights tonight.
Which songwriter are you most excited to see?
Yep. My wife's excited to go, so we're gonna go.
Which one is she most excited to see?
All of them.
All right.
Yeah, all of them.
I hope you have fun. Are you taking the kids?
Absolutely not.
You don't think they would have fun?
They would have fun, but then I wouldn't have fun.
You don't know that.
I do know that.
Maybe country music is what will get them to calm down. Don't know until you try.
Funniest joke he's ever said right there.
Nah.
Funniest joke Bren's ever said. Right. That was a good one.
That
dude.
sounds like someone who's not willing to try.
Oh,
That seems like a bad lesson to teach your kids, not to try something.
Absolutely not, Brennan. No, it's past their bedtime.
Either or, who finishes with a better record, Bengals or Dolphins?
Dolphins.
Bengals.
Right now, as we stand today, the Miami Dolphins are 6-3. The Cincinnati Bengals are 5-3.
Okay, hold on. Wait a second. I just looked at the Dolphins schedule.
Dolphins.
They play some deeply unserious football teams down the stretch. And against unserious football teams, the 2023 Dolphins are the 1972 Dolphins.
Who do they play? Give me real quick.
Vegas at the Jets, at the Manders, Tennessee, Jets at home. And then they close with 3 toughies: Dallas, at Baltimore, and Buffalo.
They could win 5 there. They could get to 11 easy. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Dolphins.
I'm going to go with the Bengals.
I know. You're a Burrow guy.
I'm a Burrow guy, but I feel like this Dolphins team is shaping up a lot like last year's Dolphins team.
Flounder at the end.
Where it was, wow, they're pretty unique, huh? They're pretty special, and then
The
teams
league-
kind of figure it out.
The league
and
catches
then-
on.
yeah.
That is my biggest question about the Dolphins. Can they counterpunch? Can Mike McDaniel counterpunch?
And that by the end of the year, if that does happen to the Dolphins again, and if they have a short or one and done playoff appearance, Mike McDaniel is, with speed we have never seen before, going to go from the guy with the cool offense who's got the quirky press conferences to, when are you going to win a game that matters to someone? Huh?
Yeah.
When's it going to happen?
Are we almost there?
Once the season ends.
We're getting close.
No, I think we're almost there.
We're getting close.
Like throwing last year and throwing this year. Have they ever won a game that matters?
No, but the one playoff game he coached in, he had Skylar Thompson, a quarterback, on the road.
That's valid.
And they almost
that-
won.
That's
They
valid.
hung in that game a lot longer.
That
than they
is
should
valid.
have.
I guess my point is more so that from a national perspective, no
Correct.
one talks about it.
Yeah.
No one
Yeah.
talks about it.
I
I think the narrative will shift if that happens to them again.
Either or. Would you rather have a leg for an arm or an arm for a leg?
Arm for a leg. Well, what my current arm?
No, you gotta have an your arm where it's at, and the reason why, the elbow. You gotta have the ability to use that situation. You know what I mean?
So you're saying an arm for a leg?
Yeah,
You'd rather have an arm for a leg
You
and
can't
keep your
have
2
a
arms?
leg right now for where your arm is at because it can only bend one way, and it's not gonna work.
Yeah.
Here's my important question though: is my arm leg length?
Yes. Yeah, it's gotta be. Otherwise,
Or is it the length of my arm as my leg? Because then all of a sudden I'm walking sideways everywhere, and that is an issue.
Scuttling like a crab.
No, I suppose it's got to be like your current arm. Otherwise, it's an easy answer. It's you put the arm as the leg.
I think I probably still do the arm for the leg and just kind of learn how to hop around on one foot, and then I can pick stuff up off the floor a lot easier.
There are wheelchairs.
Yeah, you got to go. The elbow joint is, what is that? Not the ball socket. That's the shoulder. What's the elbow joint called?
I don't know.
The elbow.
Where you
I didn't go to med school.
Where, you know what I mean? It's got like a specific name because it can go like three ways
rotates,
instead of just one.
It's
like
literally called the elbow joint.
I thought I had something more fancy.
Yeah,
like the
your
arm
leg
socket joint, the ball socket
The
joint.
synovial hinge.
Yes, there you. Obviously, I couldn't think of it. It was on the tip of my tongue.
Most places just refer to it as the elbow joint, though.
I thought there was a more technical term. Anyway,
Doesn't appear. Well, I mean, I'm sure there's a Latin something
I like
for
that
it.
question, Dan. That's a good one. I like it. Coming up next, we're going to talk some high school football with Rick Peterson of Top City Sports. Should be fun. Coming up next.
It's time for our Lewis Toyota High School whip around here on 580 Sports Talk. And in just a moment, we will chat with the best of the best when it comes to covering all local sports here in Topeka and Shawnee County. That is Rick Peterson. You can find all of Pistol's great work at topsports.news. Find him on Twitter as well at Peterson_Rick. What's the face you're making?
I'm ready for him to give me the blood bank guarantee coming up here. Like I said.
Well, we've got Pistol on the phone now on the Flipping Place Wine and Spirits hotline. Pistol, a few minutes ago, Jake was all prepared for you to give your bold predictions and make guarantees for your game picks this week. I told him that does not exactly sound like the Rick Peterson I know. But if you have any blood bank bold predictions you want to make, you're more than welcome to.
Pistol.
Caraparavel Latin beats Chase County to go to the state semifinals. How's that?
All right. We just looked it up. I'd forgotten the final score. They won that matchup by 36 last time they played, Pistol. I kind of like that one.
See, hey, Brendan, you didn't have to throw that in. I wanted it to look like I was making a bold prediction, but okay, that's all right.
Hey, well, why don't we just start right on there, Pistol, as we get to the whip around for this week. We were looking it up. The two losses that Paravel has this year, they lost to a really good and undefeated Linden team, and they lost to Axtell. And they are the only team that has even had a good game with Axtell this season. The Eagles have allowed 32 points all year, except when they gave up 44 to Paravel. I don't know how many people who are, deeply into 8-man Pistol are talking about this Lions team, but they've got a chance, I think, as good as anybody in 8-man 1 to make a real run to the title game.
Yeah, the only thing is, they're probably going to get Linden that next week.
Yeah,
and obviously Linden's very, very good. But they played with Linden. I mean, Linden didn't blow them out, and so I think it would be a good game. But yeah, you can never look past Linden. And but hey, let's go back. I mean, this is only their second year of being a full Cation member in football. For them to do what they're doing this year is just amazing.
Paravel's two losses are to arguably the two best 8-man teams in the state. The best team in 8-man 1, Linden, and 8-man 2, Axtell. That's pretty incredible. And we talked a lot last year, Pistol, in their first year as a Cation member, that one of the big challenges for Doug Bonura's group was just learning about these teams and getting to know them and what they do and the kinds of players they have. Well, in year 2, for them to take this kind of strides kind of tells you they were something of a sleeping giant a year ago, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And the only problem is now, and not a problem, but they're just getting to know the 8-man ranks, and now starting next year they go to the 11-man ranks.
Yeah.
So it's a short turnaround, but no, I think they're very proud of what they've done this year, and they should be.
We've got other games this weekend to get to, but while we're on the topic of Paravel, Pistol, just out of curiosity, do you know what that school's plan is for where they're going to play 11-man games next year?
No, I'm sure they're looking at it. They have some time to decide, but no, they do have to find a place to play their games. They played early in the season. They played at Heim Park, and then they kind of relied on the generosity of the other city schools and played a game in Hummer and played a couple at Seaman, I believe. So they will have to work that out. I don't know if you're familiar with where that school is. There's just no place to put a football stadium.
Yeah, you're not going to, throw one right on top of the interstate? I think that might be your closest area. So not sure you can build one right now, Pistol.
Yeah, so I don't know what they'll do, but I'm sure they're working on it.
We're chatting with Rick Peterson from TopSports.news. It is our Lewis Toyota High School whip around here on 580 Sports Talk. Check out all of Pistol's great work over at TopSports.news. All right, let's jump to Class 6A. It'll be our Lewis Toyota game of the week tomorrow night at Bowen Glaze Stadium. Another rematch for Washburn Rural, undefeated 10-0. The Junior Blues taking on 8-2 Wichita East, which has done nothing since they played back in week 1, but lose to Mount Carmel the next week and then roll over everybody on their way to where they are right now in this this quarterfinal matchup coming up tomorrow. This game, the first time around, Pistol, was a 1-point win with Washburn Rural making a big play on special teams, about as close as you can get. Do you think we're in for the same kind of game coming up tomorrow?
Very much so. I think the best scenario for Washburn Rural is to get out early and put East in a position where they have to fight from behind. Because last time it was pretty, if I remember right, it was pretty close the whole way, and really East had excellent opportunities to pull out a win there. So I don't think you want it to go down to that last play again.
The team speed for Wichita East is something that Steve Bueller has talked about since that week 1 matchup, and I got to talk to him earlier today, and he said it still really stands out on tape. How do you think, because you got to see them earlier in the year when they played in week 1, if I remember correctly, how do you think the speed compared between the two rosters?
Well, East just has some great athletes. And Rural does too. But the difference with East is they have some what I used to call scat backs. You know, they got those skilled people that can just run forever. And you know, if you give them an inch, they're gone. And that's what makes East so good in my estimation. But on the other hand, the flip side of that is after playing them early, the Heim boys and Paxton Bettis and all those guys, they know what they need to do not to give them that inch.
Let's jump down to Class 3A Pistol, the other undefeated team that is left from the city, the Hayden Wildcats. You want to talk about a class that is absolutely preposterous with their final 8 teams. There are 7 teams that are 9-1 or undefeated, and then the only team with a worse record is Brooks Barda's Holton Wildcats, who, give them whatever record you want, they're going to be a contender come state time again. So 3A right now, insanely deep in their quarterfinals. Hayden's got a long road trip ahead of them. They're going down to Southeast Kansas. They've got to take on Parsons coming up tomorrow night. 9-1 Parsons. What do you make of that matchup? What do you know about that Parsons team that Hayden will be facing?
Well, that Parsons team has some good. I mean, they have a passer, Troy Mack, that has passed for 1,509 yards and 15 TDs. They have a running back in Jamarian Washington who's rushed for 1,423 yards and 22 TDs. So right off the bat, you got 2 really good offensive weapons for the Vikings.
Do you think it was beneficial for Hayden last week, Pistol, to play a game that wasn't a complete blowout? They end up still winning by 3 scores, 42-24 over Santa Fe Trail, but that's a good Chargers team that put up a fight in that matchup. Prior to that, Hayden hadn't even been challenged in well over a month. Do you think that's beneficial to get a game that's a little bit closer to prepare for these tougher matchups?
Well, yes, and it was a good game. The thing about we have to realize about Hayden is, you know, first they lose Finn Dunshee, who was a key part of that team on both offense and defense. And then last week they play without Jet Walmart at quarterback, who's had an exceptional year. So, you know, you're taking out 2 very key components for that team and still win. So, I mean, they're still 10-0 while dealing with those injuries. So that's what you got to say about Hayden.
2 other games to get to now from Class 5A as we talk to Rick Peterson of TopSports.news on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline for our Lewis Toyota High School whip around this afternoon. Again, go check out TopSports.news for Pistol and his whole crew's phenomenal coverage of all of our local teams, football and otherwise. From Class 5A, Pistol, let's start with Seaman. The Vikings are the only team to have knocked off a number 1 seed so far. They beat DeSoto a week ago, 31-28, and we talked about it here on the show. Any team that can throw the ball as well as Seaman can has a chance to pull an upset. That's what they did against DeSoto. What do you make of their chances against a Mill Valley team that might have 2 losses but is still as dangerous as ever?
I don't think. Yeah, I think they match up pretty well with Mill Valley. Now, you know, when you're the reigning state champs for the last several years now, I mean, you can't expect to go in there and have them be intimidated by you, no matter who you beat last week. But I go back to it, and I tell people this all the time: if a high school team can throw the heck out of the ball and throw the heck out of the ball successfully, you got a chance against anybody. And I think that's what we're looking at with Seaman. Mill Valley, they're not going to throw the ball a ton, but Daniel Blaine has thrown for 590 yards. And then they got a really good running back in Tristan Baker, who has 1,132 yards and 16 TDs. So, they'll have to, you can't score if you don't have the ball. So they're going to have to slow down Mill Valley.
Also on the road in Johnson County coming up tomorrow night, the Shawnee Heights Thunderbirds will look for their 9th win of the year. They're going to take on 9-1 Blue Valley Southwest. which usually comes into the 5A playoffs, Pistol, with an okay record, but you say, man, they played incredible competition in the EKL. Well, this year they played that great competition, and they still have gone 9-1 so far this year. It'll be a tough matchup for Shawnee Heights. What do you make of that matchup back and forth?
Southwest stats on the offensive side are just crazy. I mean, their quarterback has thrown for 2,997 yards, so probably on his first completion, he'll go to 3,000. He's thrown for 40 TDs, and then they got two receivers that are both over 1,000 yards receiving and combined for 27 TDs. So obviously, it's going to be up to the T-Birds to slow down that offense so they can stay in the game.
I would imagine that means that defensive line, and we've talked about them a ton on all the Shawnee Heights broadcasts we've done this year with Gonzalez and Dawkins and Lee and Carver. They might be the biggest, to me, position group in that game, Pistol, trying to slow down the run game and to get after the quarterback and force some incompletions.
Yeah, I mean, the pressure will be very important, and just don't give up the big play. I mean, obviously, with those stats I just threw at you, they've had a lot of big plays. So you're going to have to kind of take that away from them and give your offense a chance. And I really think with Reiki Tooley and Alan Bowman and that group, Heights can score some points. So you just got to give them an opportunity to do that.
All right, Pistol, there's only one game that'll actually be taking place in the city tomorrow night. So is it fair to assume we will see you at Bowling Glaze Stadium?
It is very fair to assume that, yes.
I can't wait for that one. It is going to be so much fun. There's a chance if Rural ends up winning this game and some other things happen on the other side of the bracket, we could see 3 straight rematches for Washburn Rural from the regular season and the postseason. I can't imagine that's a very common occurrence.
No, and I'll have to ask Steve about that. I don't know that you want to necessarily, I wouldn't want to necessarily play East again after that game was so tough. And I certainly wouldn't want to play Manhattan again, the reigning state champs, when they had such a good performance against them. On the other hand, there's no surprises. You know what to expect, and you just go in and lay it on the line.
Nobody covers high school sports in Topeka and Shawnee County better than Rick Peterson. You can find him on Twitter at Peterson_Rick. You can also check him out, of course, at topsports.news. He and his entire crew do an incredible job covering all of our teams in Topeka and across the county. Pistol, we appreciate the time as always. Enjoy Washburn Rural tomorrow night. We'll see you out there, and we'll talk to you next week.
Okay, look forward to it.
That's Rick Peterson from topsports.news.
He did.
He did have a bold pick. I was impressed.
He stamped it.
Love it. That's a really good Care Paravel team. Really, really good.
And getting better week by week,
Yes.
which is the really impressive thing.
I think the game, I'm so interested to see what Seaman can do against Mill Valley.
Me too.
Because they can throw it, man.
Mill
And they've
Valley's
got-
the gold standard. Like that, you want a chance in the playoffs to measure yourself against the very best. It's
And I
going to be
don't think-
great for Seaman to play.
I don't think Mill Valley's as dominant as they've been in the past.
Still very good. But
Yeah,
No,
don't get me wrong.
that's certainly a fair point.
Yeah.
We've got to get to a break. We'll come on back, talk a little Bobby Witt Jr. on 580 Sports Talk coming up after the news.
Hour number 3, 580 Sports Talk, coming to you on this Thursday. Thanks for stopping by. Jake, Brendan, Dan, with you today.
I would like to address something really quickly here. We have a question from Joe asking if we had announced where we're doing our game Friday night. Indeed, we do know where we're going Friday night. We are headed to Washburn Rural. We'll be right here in the city.
More specifically, Bowen Glaze Stadium on the west side.
Yeah, as opposed to the other football fields with press boxes that they have at Washburn Rural.
You want to know where we were going?
Do you have to do this?
No, I'm just giving more specific.
We're going to be at Washburn Rural. If you want to listen to the game on our airwaves, you'll be listening to Wichita East Washburn Rural. 7 o'clock. That game will be aired on our sister station, Country 106.9, tomorrow night.
K-State basketball tomorrow night here.
Yep.
Yes. So pregame is going to begin at 6:40. 6:40 pregame, 7 o'clock kickoff on Country 106.9. So if you're listening here, you're going to hear K-State. If you listen on 106.9, you're going to hear yours truly and Greg Akagi. So be prepared for that. Country 106.9, Washburn Rural, Wichita East tomorrow.
Speaking of K-State, this is where we need Charlie Weiss. We're talking K-State.
That'd be a good clip to get on the, if we ever redo Tim Fitzgerald's intro.
Yeah.
K-State.
With another KU coach in his intro. He already has one.
We need the clip of Chris Kleiman that one time going, shut your mouth, Fitz. Don't even think about it, Fitz. I think I have that somewhere. I got to dig for it, but I think I have that.
We've had to redo Fitz's at least once when Jerome Tang got hired.
Mm-hmm.
I was specifically asked, can you please take Bruce Weber out of my open?
He did say that.
I said, yeah, man, I'm happy to. I'm not dying to hear more Bruce. And we ended up adding Bill Self, which in fairness, it is an unbelievably fun clip.
I'm looking for if we got the K-State one from Charlie Weiss. Was it 2014, I believe?
I don't know, but while you're looking.
Yes, we do have a K-State trivia question.
Yes, we do. Speaking of K-State.
We've got tickets to give away.
Baylor. K-State Baylor this Saturday.
You know that the school is named for former MLB manager Don Baylor?
No.
Same family. Yeah.
Is it really?
No, I made that up on the spot.
Got him!
That was a good one. I was like,
1995 Manager of the Year, Don Baylor. I got a signed baseball.
Oh, man, that ruled.
I got a signed baseball from Don Baylor in my basement.
Oh, man.
The late great.
I do that to my wife
Love
all
groove.
the time, and she hates it.
Yeah, I can see that.
I'm always like, oh, did you know that it's called Salt Lake City because that's where the Morton Salt Company was founded? And she always looks at me like there's no way you're telling me the truth.
And
then
she's right.
And then I keep saying the same thing over and over until she goes, I didn't know that. I said, because it's fake. Ah! And, oh, man.
Oh,
She hates
yeah.
it.
Be the boy who cried wolf.
We're just going dark here. We'll see if this is it. Because we got Charlie Weiss on the KU K-State game. Let's see what we got here.
Left to go to the SEC. I think that it was time for Kansas to recognize that Kansas State is, without a doubt, the most important game of the year.
That wasn't the cut I was hoping.
No,
No.
that was pretty limp, actually. Man, I can't believe that guy couldn't inspire winning.
He loved gray. He just wanted everything to be gray. KU is a beautiful traditional color scheme of blue and red, crimson and blue, if you will.
Don't get me started on that. Oh,
And he
wait.
just loved gray.
Hold on a second. Let's try it.
It's K-State week.
Yeah!
No, I know, but I'm saying.
K-State week.
Well, I was saying,
Let's
though,
talk about K-State. It's K-State week. We are talking about K-State.
Hey, that paid off. That was actually pretty good.
That was it. That was what I was remembering. I found that thing. K-State. And he was joking about it. What a putz.
Speaking of K-State, how many tickets did you say you have?
We got 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Our trivia question today, Brendan did come up with 1, but it was very difficult. So we're going to go with something a little easier. Cooper Beebe, going to be first team All-American.
Yes.
He's going to the Senior Bowl.
Yes, that was announced today.
Yep.
Him and Ben Simmons.
I want to know the high school that Cooper Beebe went to. They're really simple. One of the nation's best offensive linemen.
Kansas kid. I'm willing to give that hint.
There you go. First one to call in. 785-272-9429. If you can tell me where Cooper Beebe went to high school, you get a 4-pack, 1, 2, 3, 4 tickets to K-State Baylor. Foe.
Quattro.
Yes. You and hopefully 3 friends. You and hopefully maybe you want to take some kids.
Yeah, some kids. Go find some children and bring them.
Do it. Preferably ones who like K-State.
And might be your own kids.
Maybe you're a fun neighbor.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I just hope you don't have 3 kids.
I guess you're not bringing your spouse.
Yeah. If I had 3 kids, then Lindsay would probably say, yeah.
If we had 4 tickets and 3 kids, we'd have to leave a kid behind because Abby went to K-State, so she ain't missing that game. Hell, I might be staying behind. I might be the one staying behind.
I didn't want to say it, Brendan, but I was going to say
Hey, it is what it is.
It looks like we have a winner. Dan, we got a winner. We got a winner. We got a winner.
Hey, that was
Where
fast.
did Cooper Beebe go to high school?
He was a Kansas City Piper Pirate.
He was.
Shout out to Charles.
Charles. The Purple Pirates of Piper.
Big cat fan, Charles. So
nice.
Nice.
Has he got
congratulations.
3 people to go?
I assume so. You wouldn't call to win 4 tickets if you didn't think you could get rid of the other 3.
Well, we will send these tickets to
Shout out to Charles.
Where is that? Charles from Topeka?
I didn't ask.
Oh.
Well, shout out to Charles.
Do you
regardless.
suppose he's in charge?
Maybe.
I presume it is
I'm sure he's only heard that a million times in his life.
presume it is a presume Topeka area.
Charles in charge.
All right.
I used to watch that show when I was a kid.
I'm not a big Jimmy Fallon guy, but he does have an album of musical sketches from the early years of his late night show. And he did one where he sang Charles in Charge as Bob Dylan. And honestly, it's really funny. Great album. I think it's called Laugh Your Pants Off, if I'm not mistaken.
I saw Paul Rudd. Hilarious.
Also a Kansas City guy.
Paul Rudd and Jimmy Fallon remade, this was a couple years ago, like maybe even 5 or 6, but they remade a classic 90s hit and they spoofed it perfectly. It was incredible. I'm trying to think of what it was, and I saw it the other day.
Paul Rudd is like big Kansas City.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if you watched season 3 of Only Murders in the Building, in which Paul Rudd plays a supporting role, a pretty important supporting role. When they go to the character's apartment, there are scenes in the character's apartment. You can see in the back there are personalized Chiefs and Royals jerseys for the character that he is playing.
Nice.
The Royals jersey is number 5. The Chiefs jersey is number 15.
Yeah.
Like that's all on purpose. Like that's Rudd is big KC. All the way.
By the way, it's hilarious. It's the 90s jam King of Wishful Thinking by Go West.
Oh.
Hilarious. Also, Johnny Kane, former KSNTer and Kansas City, when he interviewed Paul Rudd in 2014 when the Royals won the ALCS, and Paul Rudd was like, "Everybody come over to my mom's house." And people did.
Wow, that's awesome.
Everybody, the party's over at my mom's house. That was one of the greatest lines ever.
What high school did Paul Rudd graduate from?
Oh, Shawnee Mission West.
Yes.
Yeah, West. Yeah.
Nicely done.
Him and Sudeikis, I believe. Sudeikis went to the same one.
You go there too?
I think they went to separate schools.
I think
No. Sudeikis also
He
went
to
there.
West? Wow, look at West.
Yeah,
Some alumni.
number of famous people went there.
I just finished reading Kingdom Quarterback, the new book out there by
Rustin Dodd.
Dodd and Mark Dent, which, by the way, if you have any ties to Kansas City, any interest in the Chiefs, any interest in Patrick Mahomes, any interest in like American history, it's a great read. Absolutely a must read. I enjoyed it immensely. But yeah, that's there's a little bit in there dedicated to the celebrity Kansas City fan.
Speaking of Kansas City,
and particularly the Royals.
how much are we paying Bobby Witt Jr. Actually, from the text line, I think Charles is from Wamego.
Okay.
He just said it.
Yeah.
I live in Wamego.
We were curious, and now we know. Shout out to Wamego. Shout out to Boomtown.
Boomtown.
We appreciate our Wamego contingent. We
Yeah.
got a couple listeners out in Wamego.
Yeah.
More than a couple, I think. So shout out to the Boomtown contingent.
Shout out to a great golf course. Great track.
One of my favorites.
Great track.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little Royals baseball here. Bobby Witt Jr. up for all MLB. Which, by the way, Dan, they stole that from you. I just want to let
They
that be known.
did.
They stole that from you.
They did.
I will give you credit for that.
I appreciate them finally like committing to it.
Yeah.
And I can still write my book about how they should have done it for like the 70, 80 years where there was no consistent
There's
way
no
to honor
all-NBA, all
the best
MLB,
player
you know,
at each
yeah.
position in Major League Baseball.
And not
Yes.
all-stars where people vote.
I'm still gonna write my book. I'm gonna see if
Yeah.
Joe Posnanski will blurb it. I bet he will.
All righty. Bobby
He's very
Witt
nice.
Jr. There's talk potentially of a contract extension.
So this is from Ken Rosenthal.
Interesting.
This is in the Athletic today from Ken Rosenthal. After free agent shortstops Trey Turner, Xander Bogaerts, Carlos Correa, and Dansby Swanson agreed to contracts for a combined $957 million last offseason. Holy cow, that happened. The Royals' chances of signing Bobby Witt Jr. to a monster extension seemed rather slim. They still might be, but the club is at least entertaining the idea of approaching Witt, according to a source briefed on the team's plans, but not authorized to discuss them publicly.
Before we go any further, okay. Right now, would you rather have Bobby Witt Jr. than Trey Turner?
For the next 6 years, for the next 7, 8 years, probably Bobby Witt Jr. because he's
Okay.
younger.
Okay. Well, would you rather have Xander Bogaerts?
I'd rather have Witt. Bogarts took a big step back this year.
Okay. Carlos Correa.
I'd rather have Witt. Correa had a terrible year.
Okay. Dansby Swanson, which, by the way, what a name.
I love Dansby, but
Yeah, you do.
how would
Bobby Witt Jr. had 30 home runs playing half his games at Kauffman Stadium, man. Like, I think he might be better than all those guys.
Okay.
and it was just as good. I mean, Swanson's best attribute is his defense, plus being an above average hitter. Witt's got a higher offensive ceiling, and he's almost just as good defensively.
He's not a Gold Glove candidate.
The only guy I would lean toward, even for just 2024, is Turner, and even he didn't have a great first half,
Okay.
but he really came on in the second half.
Because that's the first thing I want to talk about. You got to address, like, is it worth the juice? Okay. I love this from Ken Rosenthal. Okay. The club is at least entertaining the idea of approaching with. Wow.
That was how my dating life in high school and college
Hey,
went. I was entertaining the idea of approaching a lot of girls.
Yeah, you see that girl over there in the black? I am thinking of going and talking to her. What? What?
That's almost like first base right there.
What? Here's the thing. If you don't eat, what are you going to say?
I have never felt less confident that a deal is going to get done with Bobby Witt Jr. than when I read that sentence.
Yes. let me say that they need to trade him right now. Trade him right now. If you're not going to, if you're at least entertaining the idea of coming up and talking to him, trade him right now.
Do you want to read the rest of the blurb first?
Please.
Okay. The NFL's economic, because the comparison here is like the Chiefs got a long-term deal done with Mahomes, and there's a bit in there about the Royals know that if they're going to move into a new ballpark and they want to get public support for a new ballpark, it would go a long way to have a homegrown superstar on the payroll that they have committed to for a long time. Like, it would be good business. Now, the Chiefs signed Mahomes to his record deal. The NFL's economic structure makes it easier for small market teams to strike such deals compared to their counterparts in baseball. But recent contracts for the Atlanta Braves' Austin Riley, Seattle Mariners' Julio Rodriguez, and Arizona Diamondbacks' Corbin Carroll provide potential starting points for a Witt extension. Austin Riley got 10 years for $212 million after 2+ years of service. Witt's had 2 seasons, right? Julio Rodriguez, after 1 year, he got 12 years, $209.3 million. Corbin Carroll, after less than 100 days of big league service, got 8 years, $111 million. And that's already starting to look like a bargain for the Diamondbacks. None of the comparisons is apples to apples, but the Royals know a Witt deal almost certainly would cost them more than $200 million, and they are not dismissing the possibility. That alone constitutes progress.
Look, if they're not even remotely going to offer him $250 million, then trade him right now. Trade him. Trade him. Get what you can for him. Like if the Royals didn't realize they could have done this with how many dudes? I know it's a new regime, but kind of, right? You know, you should have traded Witt. You probably should have traded Sal. If you actually did it the way that it was supposed to do it, baseball-wise and money-wise, and how it's structured, and not with your heart, right? Not with your heart. You should have traded Sal. You should have traded Witt. You should have traded a bunch of the good players. Like, I get not trading Hosmer and Moose because that was the real window.
Counterpoint, though, if you are the Royals and you're looking at 6 straight years of being at the bottom of the barrel and you're worse than you just had the worst season you've ever had, and your intent is to start winning some baseball games and put a winning product on the field, and it is fair to have questions about whether or not that is their top priority. It is entirely fair to have those questions. But let's assume it is. Let's assume that the Royals' top priority is putting a winning team in their new ballpark in the mid-2020s or the late 2020s. Wouldn't it make all the sense in the world for Bobby Witt to be part of that team? Because they can do a $200 million+ contract for Bobby Witt Jr.
I'm going with if you're not going to even remotely offer him that.
Right.
Like, they can. To be honest with you, if they don't offer, you need to make it public. Bobby Witt, we offered you $250 million for 10 years. Make it public. That's what you do PR-wise.
I think Witt would sign that, to be honest. If he got $25 million a year for the next 10 as a 23-year-old person, I think he'd do that.
You need to be able to at least say to show the public, hey, we wanted to sign it. Like, because if you're not, I'm. You guys know my stance. If they don't spend money this offseason, then the Royals are whatever.
And I think
they're completely done.
And I think that's why this is worded like we have a texter from the 913 who points out this is like specifically vague. And like, yeah, there's a reason for that. But there's a reason it's worded the way specifically this is, to say that they're still they're not trying to make Bobby Witt look like the bad guy yet. Like, oh, we've already approached him and we made an offer. Like, if you say, yeah, we've made some early overtures, but there's no traction, what you're trying to do is make Bobby Witt Jr. look like the bad guy. If you say, yeah, we're starting to think about putting something forward, putting something together that we can then present to Bobby Witt Jr. and his representation, then you look like you're taking the initiative and you're not making your homegrown best player look like the bad guy. Smart business at this stage in the game.
I just want them to try.
Yes.
Like, just, and you got the money.
Well, there's the thing about it. Like, if you're not willing to make it work with him, of all the players you could have,
just sell the team.
Fold.
No, don't fold. I still want a team.
No, but honestly, like what is the point? You can invest in anything and make money.
Yeah.
Go buy a share of an NFL team. Go do something else. What is even the point if you're not going to even try? Because I don't believe that in 2 years, if there's not a deal done, I don't think the Royals are the kind of team that's going to just say, hey, we're going to trade Bobby Witt Jr. with 3 years left and rebuilding. I don't think they're going to do that. I think you keep him as long as you can have him under contract. But I just don't understand what the point is if you're not going to spend to keep him.
This is the guy you pay.
This is exactly the type of thing that you should be doing. Good teams that build through free agency, teams that build through drafting. In every sport, the one thing that everybody that is successful does is keeps their homegrown drafted guys, drafted stars. If you're not even willing to do that, then why should I believe you are ever going to try to win a championship? And that's an earnest question. Yeah. Like, that is the number one sign that, hey, at the very least, we kept our guys. Teams that go for it but fail over and over, they at least can come back to their fans and said, hey, we rode with our guys, with the guys you loved, and we did our best. If you're not even willing to do that, then what's the point? And I'm not saying that it's not going to get to that point. It very well might.
Yeah.
I don't think this ownership has earned the benefit of the doubt to this point, though. No. And that's why I feel tense about it.
Yes. And I think that's entirely fair. Like, they will get the benefit of the doubt when they earn it. And it would go a long way toward establishing some goodwill if you say, look, the team we want to build a new ballpark for, we're tired of all this losing to. We're going to pay our cornerstone. He's going to wear a Royal uniform for the entirety of his prime. He's going to be ours. And we will build around this guy, because this guy is the guy you build around. You build around a player like this.
I hope they get it done because Royals fans, if no one else, deserve to see a guy that good at wearing their favorite uniform for the long-term future.
Absolutely. I mean, think about Royals history. Like, generationally speaking, that is how it has worked.
Yep.
There was George Brett. Obviously Brett is in his own category, but
right.
You had like Mark Sweeney play his entire portion of his meaningful career. Salvador Perez is that. Alex Gordon has been that. Like, you can do it. You can pay those players. You can make those players a part of your organization and your story, and you can build around them and try and win some baseball games. And I think the Royals need to show, this ownership group needs to show that is their top priority right now, because I think it's fair to question.
Let's get to a quick break, and on the other side of this timeout, we've got today's What Is Wrong With You. It's coming up here on 580 Sports Talk. Time here on 580 Sports Talk. Our winner of the week from yesterday, the guy who shot fireworks at a helicopter.
Yeah, the guy who doesn't like living so close to a wedding venue that he's been making threats to people who go to the wedding venue apparently for years. And when there was a helicopter at the venue to take away a newly married couple, he shot a mortar firework at it and almost hit it.
Oh, my God, that is so bad. That is our winner for the week so far in What Is Wrong With You, which is brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. They cut the metal you need to your specifications, saving you time, money, and material. So never settle when it comes to metal with Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field, right here in the capital city. Dan, you're up first today.
All right, we're going to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. It was election day this week, Tuesday.
Did you vote?
I did vote.
I did too.
Nothing will make you care about school board elections faster than marrying a teacher, it turns out. I don't think I had been all that active in paying attention to that kind of thing. But that's my bad. You really should be. You should know who's educating, making decisions about your children's education. And so, yeah, I went and voted. I got my sticker in the car still. So anyway, there were lots of elections all over the place. In the state of Pennsylvania, they had a pretty significant election regarding the state superior court, which is just below the Supreme Court. Anyway, 74-year-old David Lassiter went to go vote, and he forgot his wallet. You know, you take out your wallet, you got to get your ID, they scan your ID, and he just forgot his wallet at the polling place. And he said he was going back to get it, and he was bringing the guns, plural, with him. Over $100 he claimed was missing when he went back for his wallet. Lassiter, 74 years old, called police to report an alleged theft, then reportedly told officers he would get a gun and handle it himself. Don't tell the police that you're going to do that, first of all.
Well, I mean, alternately, I'm kind of glad he did.
The officers made attempts to convince Mr. Lassiter it wouldn't be in everyone's best interest if he was to show up at a polling station with a firearm and bad intentions, said Harrisburg police in a news release. Police said officers made it to the polling place before Lassiter could return and made contact with him as he was pulling into the parking lot. Lassiter appeared to point a gun at an unoccupied police cruiser during the incident. After initially returning to the polling station to retrieve his wallet, Mr. Lassiter proceeded to make a scene inside, thus alarming everyone within the premises. He reportedly made threats to come back with a firearm before he left. You know, the line from Natural Born Killers, I got a problem solver, and his name is Revolver.
Uh-huh.
My man Lassiter had 7 problem solvers. Police said officers found 7 firearms with matching ammunition for each one. He came back and said, I got a problem solver, and his name is Revolver, and his name is 22, and his name is AR-15, and his name is Snub-Nose Rifle, and so on and so forth. Mr. Lassiter became aggressive and hostile toward the officers on scene. He was detained for his safety as well as that of everyone on scene. No one was hurt. Lassiter was charged with disorderly conduct, making terroristic threats, and possession of instruments of a crime. Preliminary hearing is scheduled for November 30th.
You know, historically, I would invite Mr. Lassiter to do a little research about the history of people bringing firearms to polling places. Not something that's usually smiled upon in this country.
No, especially not now. But again, it goes back to people solving problems with firearms. Like, that's not how you're going to get your problem solved.
No,
it's not.
And again, I am actually very glad he ended up telling the police that he was going to take it upon himself to solve his problem.
Yeah, because what happens if they aren't there?
I am very scared to even think about it.
Yes, I'm glad we never found out, because that would not be what is wrong with you. It would be probably disqualified.
Yes, and that also would have been much bigger news around the country yesterday than just the elections themselves.
Yes.
Wow, yeah, that's scary. My story today reminded me of a certain French national soccer player. Remember the name Zinedine Zidane?
Yeah, one of the all-time greats.
Yeah. Where's he now? He's a manager in the Prem, isn't he?
Not in the Premier League. I think he is managing. Is he managing Real Madrid? Yes.
Okay.
No. He recently managed them. He stepped down in 2021. He is currently just chilling.
All right. Well, fair enough. So there was a song we learned when I was in 7th grade. This is shortly after the infamous headbutting incident.
Yes.
The song is called Coup de Boule, which literally translates to headbutt. And the chorus is Zidane il a frappé coup de boule. Zidane hit him headbutt. That's essentially the chorus of the song.
Wow, that's like hashtag rap.
Yeah, it really is.
That sounds like a Drake line.
Yeah, it really is. So why is that relevant to our story? Well, let me tell you, we're heading to Collier County, Florida, where deputies arrested a Naples man after he reportedly headbutted a referee during a game on Wednesday night.
Oh, my gosh.
On November 8th, deputies with the Collier County Sheriff's Office arrested Jose Luis Garcia, a 43-year-old man from Naples, for battery on a sports official during or after a contest. I didn't know that was a crime. At around 8:43 p.m., deputies were dispatched to the Eagles Lake community in reference to a battery charge. Witness Christian Nino called 911 after he watched the referee lose his balance and fall to the ground. Garcia said that referee Juan Mendoza reprimanded him for a foul while he was playing in a soccer game. Garcia believed the referee had made a bad call. When speaking with the sheriff's office, Mendoza said Garcia became verbally abusive, which caused him to issue a yellow card. However, the verbal aggression continued to increase from Garcia, at which point Mendoza issued a red card and ejected him from the game. But before Garcia could leave the field, he went up to the referee and headbutted him in the mouth. This wasn't even Zidane with a headbutt to the chest. No, right to the mouth. Mendoza told deputies Garcia is a member of the coaching staff of one of the teams. He is currently booked at the Collier County Jail.
PE All-Stars. We got grown PE All-Stars here.
So this is like a men's league team, and you're headbutting the ref? Buddy, you got to go see him at the dentist's office next week. Like, these are your neighbors. What are you doing?
Like,
This dude works at the hardware store, bro.
like people who officiate youth sports, high school sports, give up their time to do that. Like, they're doing it for kids. They're doing it for the community. Man, I don't know what would make you sign up to referee a men's league event. Like, absolutely not. You couldn't pay me enough because you run into yahoos like this. The PE All-Stars who take it too far, who say, oh, red card, huh? I got your red card right here in the middle of my forehead.
Like, this ain't
Red
costing
card
you this ain't kicking you out of the Champions League final, dog. Like, you're just got to go home to your kids sooner.
Can we talk about the fact that he looks like the love child of Diego Maradona and Tony Siragusa?
He does have a lot of goose to him.
Yeah. RIP to them both.
Yeah.
Nations.
Oh, man. Tough loss for the sports community. All right. Who you got today?
Two good stories.
I hate yours more. Like,
Yeah.
it's obviously a good What Is Wrong With You. I really hate that guy, though.
Yeah.
I kind of hate them both. Really.
Yeah. The guy headbutted a ref.
In the mouth. He took teeth right to the dome.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, let's go with him. But I think our guy who shot a firework at a helicopter.
Yeah.
Tried to ruin a wedding. Yeah.
I can't stop seeing Tony Siragusa now when I see this guy.
Right?
I can't get that out of my brain.
It's a lot like Goose.
It really
Gonna
does.
sell me some shields and guards.
That is our winner again in What Is Wrong With You. The firework. What do we have a nickname for him?
The I don't know.
We'll come up with one.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
We'll have one by the end of the week. That's again our winner, though, in What Is Wrong With You. Brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. Metal cut to order when you need it. That's Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard. Part 2 of our Lewis Toyota High School Athletes of the Week are coming up next on 580 Sports Talk. It is time for the second part of this week's Lewis Toyota High School Athletes of the Week. Yesterday, we heard from Callan Barta, the standout two-way player for the Seaman Vikings. And today, we've got another standout player who has mostly focused on defense during his career, but has become a major offensive player for Washburn Rural as well. Linebacker and running back J.C. Heim, who last week in the win over Junction City had 21 tackles on defense and 2 touchdowns, 1 running, 1 receiving on offense in the Junior Blues 27-20 win over Junction City. Got to talk to JC this week all about his senior season, the year he's having, that performance against Junction City, and his college plans as well. Does he plan to play in college alongside his twin brother, Jaron, who, by the way, in his own right, is also having a sensational senior season? We got to all that and more with J.C. Heim, standout linebacker and running back for the Washburn Rural Junior Blues. Our Lewis Toyota High School Athlete of the Week comes to us this week from Washburn Rural Football, the number 1 seed in the 6A West for the Kansas State High School Football Playoff bracket. And his name is J.C. Heim, starting linebacker for the Junior Blues. Over 130 tackles on the season for J.C. so far, including 21 in a big-time win in regionals over Junction City this past Friday night. JC, thank you for taking the time for us. First question I've got for you. Let's go back to this past Friday night when you guys beat Junction City. You were playing like a man possessed in that game, especially that first half. I'm not sure if I've seen a better linebacker performance in a first half of a playoff game. What was working so well for you against the Blue Jays on Friday?
We game planned. We shut down their, we knew what they were going to do. We had to stay disciplined, and we game planned for it the whole week leading up to it. We did really good game tackling, and I think we just did a good job rallying to the ball and doing our jobs and reading our keys.
You guys had already played Junction City earlier in the year, a game in which you guys on defense just had an unbelievable game. You won 28-7, and your offense only scored 1 touchdown in the game. What did you learn from that first time you played Junction City that you were able to use effectively the second time you played?
I knew they were gonna come out and try to run the ball on us because we had 2 picks, maybe a forced fumble our first game. I don't remember, but I knew they were going to switch up some things. I knew we had to be ready to go on offense, and I knew our defense had to read some different keys and stay sound. So
we've been talking mostly so far, and I've been asking you mostly about the defensive side of the ball. Well, you've become a major part of this offense too, JC, after being sort of a reserve running back for the majority of the season. You've taken on a much bigger running back role in the last couple of weeks, including getting the start this past week against Junction City, and you end up with 2 touchdowns in the game. How natural has that switch been from being full-time defense, occasional offense, to being essentially full-time at both?
I did it my sophomore year. Didn't do it so much my junior year, but then it feels good to be back on running the rock on offense. Going both ways can be tiring, but hey, we got to do what we got to do. So it's a good time, that's for sure.
All right, so I've got to ask, you're playing 2 of the most physical positions on the football field, running back and linebacker. Do you get more pleasure when you get hit or when you dole out a hit?
I tend to like the hit. I like to deliver the hit.
We're talking to J.C. Heim, linebacker and running back for the Washburn Rural Junior Blues, our Lewis Toyota High School Athlete of the Week, following a massive performance in a regional round win over Junction City this past Friday. JC, I wanted to look back over this season in general for you this year. I mentioned the tackle total earlier, 136 tackles on the season, an increased role on offense as well. When you look back on this year, what do you think is the biggest change, the biggest improvement you've made in your game to go from being a really darn good player as a junior to now one of the best linebackers in the state as a senior?
I think that comes with my speed. I ran track this year. I worked on my start to stop finish. I think I'm doing a better job of reading my keys, switching from outside linebacker to middle. Outside backer has helped me get past tackles and guards, and switching to middle has been big for me, and I enjoy it a lot more. And getting to see the field and read the offense, and basically being the captain of the defense. So.
Linebacker at Washburn Rural in recent years has been a true point of pride for Topeka football, and there have been so many good ones. You just think of the last couple of years, Ty Weber and Wyatt Conklin, and so many guys that you have played with who have been stars and studs in that linebacker core for your defense. What did you learn from some of those guys when you were a younger player that you now use now as a senior and as a veteran leader for this team?
I idolize those guys. Those dudes are some of my best friends. Great players. I with Ty, I tend to, I actually just had a phone call with him to talk more about middle backer. It's all new to me. He was good at hitting the gap and chasing down backside. Wyatt, he was good on the outside. Me and him were good friends. We both played outside together, and just learning the physicality and the plays. They're good leaders for us.
Now, the linebacker core for Washburn Rural, it's not just a home for you, but for your brother Jaron as well. What has it been like for you to get to play your entire high school football career and your youth football career before that as well, right alongside your brother?
Oh, it's been competitive, but it's been a good time, that's for sure. We tend to go out there and see if we can get the most tackles every game, but doing it the right way, being physical and having fun.
Do you ever end up in a situation where you're on offense during a drill, your brother's on defense, and you run into each other? Is that ever something that happens?
Oh, yeah. Our coaches tend to set that up a few times.
Who usually gets the better of those matchups?
I'd say it's pretty even, but I think we both deliver the blow a few times. So
and
that's a good question.
That's the sign of great competition, right? To have even results on either side of the battle. Your younger brother, Jordy, also on the team this year, so it's become even more of a family affair for the Heims at Washburn Rural. What has that been like to see him progress and play a little bit more as the season has gone on?
It's been awesome. Just teaching him the ways, giving him the reins, just showing him he's doing a good job. He's being a good younger brother, and he's been great for us. And it's just awesome having all three of us out there at the same time. So
we've got a few more questions for J.C. Heim, linebacker and running back for the Washburn Rural Junior Blues, the number 1 seed in the 6A West, and our Lewis Toyota High School Football Player of the Week, J.C. Heim. And J.C., I wanted to ask you about leadership and being a senior, being a veteran, someone who's played so many snaps during your career for Washburn Rural. Is that sort of leadership something that comes naturally to you? And how would you describe who you are and what you are as the leader? Are you vocal on the field or during practice? Is it more, lead by example? How would you describe your leadership style?
I'd say I'm more vocal on the field. I tend to I try to get the play call in and make sure everybody knows what they're doing in their jobs. Make sure keep everybody accountable, but having fun doing it. And it's important to, when someone's not doing something right, it's important to let them know. But when they're doing something good, it's important to let them know they're doing good. So got to be a good teammate, that's for sure.
Now, next up for you guys on the field coming up on Friday night, you're taking on Wichita East, a team that you beat earlier this season, but you had a whale of a game, a 1-point win all the way back in week 1. What do you remember about facing Wichita East the first time around, and what do you have to be keeping an eye on for this matchup on Friday?
We definitely got to I remember their speed. They're a quick team. They do a good job with their receivers, and they got a good running back. We just got to stay sound on our secondary and be ready for that pass. When it comes defense, we got to be able to run the ball, and we got to be able to run off some rub routes and stuff. So it's going to be a tough game, that's for sure. They're a good team, and I think they've gotten better, but so have we.
The last thing I've got for you then, JC, is I wanted to ask you a little bit about the recruiting process. In your senior year, you're being heavily recruited, you and your brother, Jaron, in fact, by a lot of programs, including schools all over the MIAA. I know a couple of D1 schools have shown you some interest as well, including KU just down the road here in Lawrence. What has this experience been like for the both of you and for you as an individual to get all sorts of attention and to have coaches and programs and administrations tell you how badly they want you to come to their school? What has this recruiting process been like for you?
It's been good. It's been stressful at times, but it's also been humbling. Me and my brother are planning on playing together somewhere here soon. We probably won't make that decision until after season, but I know I'm not going anywhere without him, that's for sure.
I was going to ask, is that something that was always kind of in the plan when the recruiting mail first started coming in that, hey, we want to go somewhere together? Or did it kind of take a little while to say, you know what? Maybe we should go somewhere else. Nah, let's stick together for a little bit longer. How did that thought process kind of unfold?
Oh no! Even though we're both competing against each other every day, it's always been a dream of us to continue to play together and go beyond there. So.
Well, what a season it has been for J.C. Heim of Washburn Rural, and coming off of a fantastic game. 2 touchdowns on offense, 21 tackles on defense, and a win over Junction City. And the Washburn Rural stud linebacker J.C. Heim is our Lewis Toyota High School Athlete of the Week. J.C., thank you for taking time for me during a busy game week. I really appreciate it. Best of luck to you with whatever your college choice ends up being, and best of luck against Wichita East coming up this week as well.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
That is J.C. Heim, the stud linebacker for the Washburn Rural Junior Blues, the second half of our Lewis Toyota High School Athletes of the Week for this week, after we spoke to Callan Barta from the Seaman Vikings yesterday. We will hear from more of J.C. Heim coming up tomorrow on our Lewis Toyota High School Football Game of the Week. Washburn Rural in action against Wichita East. Rural won the first matchup this season. You want to go all the way back to week 1, a 26-25 winner. And who else but J.C. Heim? A blocked extra point was the difference maker in that 26-25 win. Hopefully, Washburn Rural will be able to keep their momentum going and advance on to the sub-state round of the playoffs. By the way, we'll get to a recap once again of all the matchups for all the city teams in just a moment. A website that I always find extremely interesting at this time of the year, calpreps.com. You can guess based on the name, it's out of California, and it's originally for California high school football. But it's sort of an analytical look at high school football matchups, and it takes your points scored and points allowed and home versus road splits and all the things like that. And if you're saying there's analytics for high school football, you bet there are. And I'm sure there's something like this out of Texas too. But CalPreps, they don't just do California. They do games all across the country. They've got this one pretty close. They say it's going to be a 3-point game based on their projections. They like Wichita East a lot in this one. I think Washburn Rural, though, already having won this matchup once, getting to play at home, that obviously plays a big deal in the postseason. And with the way this team is playing offense, defense, special teams, hard for me to pick anyone against Washburn Rural right now. We're going to have this game, though, coming up on our sister station, Country 106.9, tomorrow. Again, not 580. It'll be Country 106.9 tomorrow night, 6:40 pregame, 7 o'clock kick for Washburn Rural versus Wichita East on the Lewis Toyota High School Football Game of the Week. The other games involving city teams coming up tomorrow in the sectional round, the state quarterfinal round of the playoffs. They include from 5A, Seaman, which knocked off number 1 DeSoto last week. They will be taking on 4-time reigning state champion Mill Valley in Shawnee. That is coming up tomorrow night. Also in Class 5A on the eastern side of the bracket, it'll be Shawnee Heights in action against Blue Valley Southwest, a dang good Blue Valley Southwest team, 9-1 on the year coming out of the Eastern Kansas League. That will be going on over in Johnson County as well. Down in 3A, a long trip for the Hayden Wildcats. They are 10-0 on the year. They're taking on a good Parsons team, 9-1. We talked about this with Pistol earlier today on the high school whip around. The bracket that remains in Class 3A includes, I believe it is 5 teams that are 9-1, 2 that are 10-0, Hayden and Cheney, and then a mere 6-4. The Holton Wildcats, who if you're going to give me Brooks Barta versus the field in the postseason, normally I'm going to say, yeah, I think Holton has a pretty darn good chance, the Holton Wildcats. So an incredibly deep field in 3A. Hayden will be taking on Parsons on the road coming up in the sectional round. And all the way down in 8-man Division 1. The Care Paravel Latin Lions. What a season for Doug Bonura's group. They are trying to advance on to their first ever sub-state round. They've only been in Acacia for football for a couple of years. They will take on Chase County out of Cottonwood Falls on the road in Cottonwood Falls. That is coming up tomorrow. What a game. What an opportunity for Care Paravel in that one. And of course, if you missed today's high school whip around with Rick Peterson of topsports.news, head to our website, 580wibw.com. Just go click on the podcast tab, really hover over the podcast tab with your cursor, then click on 580 Sports Talk, and that's where you'll find the hour-by-hour version of the show. That's where you can go check out all of our interviews, other segments, games, all that throughout the day here on 580 Sports Talk. We do have to get to a break for the national and local news. Coming up in the 5 o'clock hour of the show, we've got your 580 Sports Talk headlines, we've got a preview of Thursday Night Football, and we've got our weekly conversation with the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, Mitch Holthus, brought to you by Hy-Vee and Azure Credit Union. We'll get to all that coming up in the final hour of 580 Sports Talk. hour of 580 Sports Talk on this Thursday, November 9th. Welcome to the show. I'm Brendan Dworzynski. Thanks so much for hanging out with me and the whole crew, parts of the crew anyway, throughout the day today. We appreciate you spending some time with us, though. Jake's got the Washburn Coaches Show coming up, 6 o'clock start time over on Country 106.9. He'll be joined by Craig Schurig, head coach of Washburn football. Can you believe the MIAA season is almost over? Final game of the season coming up this weekend. How about that? So Craig Schurig will be on the Washburn Football Coaches Show tonight, as will Brett Ballard, head coach of the Washburn men's basketball team. They will begin their season coming up on Saturday. They'll play Saturday and Sunday, in fact, 11 and noon, respectively. Yours truly will be on the call of their games in Kansas City as they begin the Central Region Challenge this year, taking on Sioux Falls, South Dakota, in the first matchup of the tournament. And then on Sunday, they will play Minnesota State Moorhead. Believe it or not, found this while prepping for the game. First meeting ever between Washburn and Minnesota State Moorhead. How about that? They almost met in the NCAA tournament a couple years ago. Now I'm diving too deep in the prep stuff. You don't care. We'll get to the show more in just a second. But just wanted to let you know Washburn coverage coming up this weekend on our sister station, Country 106.9. Dan, meanwhile, speaking of Washburn, he is on his way, heading down to Shawnee, Oklahoma, for the Washburn women beginning their season and the Central Region crossover being hosted down in Shawnee at Oklahoma Baptist this weekend. The Washburn women will be taking on SWAZU, Southwest Oklahoma State, as well as OBU, Oklahoma Baptist, coming up on Friday and Saturday this weekend. And again, all Washburn athletics action can be heard on our sister station, Country 106.9, including tonight's Washburn Football Coaches Show. Coming up here in the final hour of 580 Sports Talk, we've got our headlines in just a moment. We've got a preview of Thursday Night Football tonight. I would love to know if you plan to watch TNF this evening. It's Panthers versus Bears. Plus, by the way, Mitch Holthus is going to join us later this hour, as he does every Thursday during the Chiefs season. But are you going to watch Thursday Night Football tonight? I don't know if I'm going to watch every single snap of the game, but I am also... if you're putting NFL football on, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch the National Football League because I care about it more than I care about most things in life. So I am going to at least watch a good portion of the game tonight while I'm getting ready for high school football and Washburn basketball this weekend. I know we're going to have the Big Brother finale on in our house. My wife waiting patiently, very patiently, for the end of one of her favorite shows seasons tonight. But other than that, probably going to have a lot of NFL on this evening. Are you going to watch a game between arguably the two worst teams in the NFL, though? The Panthers, at least according to the current draft projections and the current draft order, if the season ended today, they're the second worst team in the league. The Bears are the third worst. Only the Cardinals are in front of the two of them. And funny enough, the Bears own both their pick and the Panthers pick tonight. So are you going to watch Thursday Night Football? Let me know. Text line 785-272-9429 or hit me up in the YouTube comments. Of course, our YouTube channel is 580 Sports Talk. Just head to youtube.com, search 580 Sports Talk. So simple. It's just the name of the show. Make sure you subscribe. We're getting darn close to 400 subscribers, which is pretty incredible based on where we started with somewhere in the neighborhood. I think it was about somewhere between 30 and 50 when we first started streaming the show live every single day, which we've now been doing for just over a year. It was October 31st of last year, in fact, when we started. So go subscribe to the channel. Check out the live stream today. Hop into the comment section. Go check out the back catalog of shows, high school coverage, all the other stuff we've got over on our YouTube channel. And let me know. Are you going to watch TNF tonight? We'll get to a preview. We've got the spread for it. I'll get you my pick for the game. Some other interesting notes about Bears Panthers. But it is definitely not the sexiest matchup we have ever had for a Thursday night football game or a primetime game at the very least. So all that is coming up this hour on 580 Sports Talk. But with that, it is time to get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines for today. And the first one involves a member of the Kansas City Chiefs, and not for good reasons. Chiefs receiver Justin Ross has had one of the misdemeanor charges he is facing in Shawnee County upgraded to a felony charge, which remains in Johnson County. Prosecutors filed an amended complaint earlier this week, charging that Ross or that now charges Ross, with felony criminal damage to property of more than $1,000 but below $25,000. That is a felony of level 9 severity in Johnson County and under Kansas statutes. The disturbance between Ross and his then girlfriend allegedly happened back on October 23rd at a Shawnee apartment complex. Information from a probable cause affidavit filed in the case states that Shawnee police went to the apartment and spoke with Ross's girlfriend. She told police that Ross had gotten mad at something he had found on her cell phone. Ross then told police he had found out his girlfriend had been cheating on him, and it all unfolded from there. I mentioned this at the time, shortly after Justin Ross was arrested back in that final week of October, and I'll say it again now. It is not my place to pass judgment on exactly what happened because I do not know exactly what happened. I was not there. All I can say about this is I hope that whoever needs to get justice does indeed get justice in this case. And additionally, don't put yourself in this situation. I understand that there are domestic issues that pop up in relationships, okay? I understand that sometimes you see something you didn't want to see. I understand that sometimes there might be, external affairs that go on that are unfortunate for one reason or another. Again, all we have is he said, she said at this point. I get all of that. But if you're an NFL player, if you're a person in general, any old guy in general, don't put yourself in this position. That's my one piece of advice for you. You can avoid this. There are ways to handle this other than what allegedly may have happened here, okay? That's my one piece of advice. Don't end up putting yourself in a position where you could be in any sort of compromised situation. Just avoid it as best as you can. And I don't know what's going to happen with Justin Ross, with the Chiefs, or with the rest of his NFL career and future, or with this court case in particular. All I know is that it's a bad situation. I wish it had never happened to him. You obviously know he wishes it had never happened to him and he'd never put himself in that spot. I'm sure he regrets it. And in fact, I hope he does if something did indeed go down that required the police officers, law enforcement officers to be called on him back on October 23rd. A diversion hearing for Ross is set for December 4th. No other court dates are currently listed. Ross is not with the Chiefs at the moment because he is on the commissioner's exempt list. Cannot play, cannot practice, nothing like that. Man, it's a bad situation. It's a bad situation. Stay out of it. This is what I always say to athletes and what I always say when we have a situation like this. And I say this not knowing that, oh man, next time a star player from the NFL or Major League Baseball or an athlete or college athlete or whatever gets in a legal situation, they're not coming to me for advice, okay? I understand that. But if I was to be asked for advice, and frankly, in a job that I have where I'm paid to give opinions, the opinion I always have is just don't put yourself in that situation. It is avoidable. Almost every situation in life is avoidable to one degree or another. And in the alleged situation here in Shawnee, absolutely avoidable for Justin Ross. That's the only thing I've got to say about it. I hope that, again, justice is served however it needs to be served. And I don't necessarily know that I hope that his Chiefs career ends up working out. I just hope that whatever went down, the truth is found out. Justice is doled out however it needs to be doled out for this case. But Justin Ross now facing a felony charge for one of the things he was charged with when he was arrested back on October 23rd. As far as I am aware, that one of the misdemeanor charges is still in effect, and then the property damage charge is what has been increased to a felony charge at the moment. Let's stick with the NFL as we continue on with our 580 Sports Talk headlines for today. Some injury notes involving wide receivers. That includes Justin Jefferson of the Minnesota Vikings. Sounds like he is not going to make his debut with the new starting quarterback of the Vikings, Josh Dobbs, quite as of yet. Jefferson said that he is going to wait until he is 100% until he gets back on the field. Now, the Vikings are going to play the Saints this weekend. That'll be in Minnesota. That is a winnable game for the Vikings with or without Justin Jefferson. However, Jefferson speaking today, his first public comment since going on injured reserve back on October 8th, he said, quote, "The hamstring is a difficult injury because it lingers and it comes back from time to time if you don't put the right treatment into it. The guys and the rest of the coaching staff in this building know my worth on the field, and they want me at 100%, as I do as well. I don't want to go out there at 80 or 90% and have the chance of hurting it again. It's just day to day, and when that time comes, I'll definitely be ready to step out there. Now, the Vikings may be a little bit shorthanded this weekend regardless. KJ Osborne currently going through the concussion protocol after he suffered a nasty hit this past week in the Vikings' heroic win over, who was it they beat this past week? Was it, it wasn't Arizona. I'm thinking of the Cardinals because that's where Dobbs previously was. They beat the Falcons. God, the Falcons are a miserable watch. Even with Taylor Heineke in at quarterback, who I enjoy a whole bunch more than I enjoy watching Desmond Ridder. Their offense, conceptually, there's some stuff that is really cool and unique, but also, like, man, just use your good players. Throw the ball to Kyle Pitts. Run the ball with Bijan Robinson. I don't understand why Arthur Smith is so opposed to it. Maybe he feels like he's just got to prove how smart he is. That maybe is a psychological examination into a guy who grew up with a billionaire family, and he's got to prove that he's smart on his own. I don't know exactly where it comes from. All I know is he's not very good at using his best players, which is usually what you try to do as an offensive-minded play caller and coach. Anyway, Justin Jefferson sounds like he's not going to play for the Vikings against the Saints this week. I get it. Hamstrings are nasty. I remember for years, it felt like one of my all-time favorite players on the Green Bay Packers, Clay Matthews. Loved watching him play. He was my first Packers authentic jersey. I loved 52 with that long flowing blonde hair. And he'd whip it around pregame and all that. He had a hamstring issue for the last, it felt like 4 years of his stint with the Packers, and he just never got right. He never got fully healthy from it, and it really zapped what could have been, I don't know about a Hall of Fame career, but maybe at least would have been in the discussion if he had been able to keep that production up. But he lost so much of his explosion, and he kept going back on the field at 75, 80% instead of getting fully healthy, and well, it really damaged a lot of the end of his career. So I get it for Justin Jefferson. I know if you're a fan, you probably say, damn, this sucks. Get on the field. If you can play it, if other guys can play it 80%, you can play it 80%. But when you're the best player a team has and you need to rely on explosiveness and long strides and whatnot, sudden cuts like Justin Jefferson, I do totally understand trying to be 100% before you test that hamstring again. Also, wide receiver injury news today. T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, they are both in danger of missing the Bengals tilt this weekend with the Houston Texans. That would be a big loss, obviously. Chase dealing with a back injury that has not really helped him out getting any better, any looser over the course of the week. Not sure on him. T. Higgins was not even dressed for practice today. Didn't have a jersey on, was wearing sneakers on his way to the practice field. Doesn't sound like T. Higgins is going to play. Honestly, if you wanted to make me put a bet on it, I would bet that neither of these guys end up going out there to play for the Bengals this week, which is obviously tough. Houston is not a pushover. And the Bengals, while they're playing really, really well, that offense looks a whole lot different when you're suddenly going from throwing to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and your third option, Tyler Boyd, to throwing to Tyler Boyd as your number one wide receiver option with a tight end group that, well, they proved this past weekend in primetime, they're not bad. They're certainly unheralded, maybe unimpressive, but they're fine. Drew Sample had a touchdown. Ooh, Drew Sample. Like that's what you're looking at with this tight end group for Cincinnati. I don't know. That makes the matchup a whole lot tougher against a Houston team that's not good necessarily, but it's certainly feisty and it's certainly challenging to play. So we'll see about that. I don't think it's good chances for either of those two Bengals receivers to get on the field, but we'll find out here in the near future. Let's move to the college game and some major injury news. Injury improvement news, I should say. Quinn Ewers, he is expected to start for Texas coming up on Saturday against the TCU Horned Frogs. That's a big deal for Texas to get him back. I think there are certainly some positive things for Malik Murphy, and that look like, hey, he could be a really good player. He was a highly touted recruit for a reason, but he's clearly not the best option for Texas if everybody is fully healthy. Clearly, Arch Manning isn't either, considering the fact that he can't even get off the bench right now, and he's taking a redshirt year for Texas. Quinn Ewers gives them their best chance to win, well, anything. Week to week, conference championship. If they get to a New Year's Six game, win that game. If they get possibly to the college football playoff, their best chance of winning playoff games is with Quinn Ewers. If he can go, that is obviously a big deal for the Texas Longhorns when they take on the TCU Horned Frogs coming up this weekend. By the way, around the rest of the Big 12 this week, we obviously know about KU and Texas Tech. If you're watching on the YouTube stream, you probably just saw me drip water out of a water bottle onto my arm. That was really embarrassing. Look, sometimes you get thirsty. You host alone, you get thirsty. It happens sometimes. Anyway, we know about KU Tech. We know about K-State versus Baylor. Not the most fascinating group of games, if we're being completely honest with you, across the conference. West Virginia, Oklahoma. OU really needs a win in the worst way. Cincinnati, Houston, that game before it even starts has awful vibes. Texas at TCU, that's your ABC game. And then Iowa State at BYU. That game is going to kick off at 9:15 on ESPN. The best part about this schedule, other than the fact that both KU and K-State get to play at home, is that we get some late night Big 12. Get used to it, because we're going to have a whole lot more of that in the future once we get Arizona and Arizona State and Colorado and Utah added to the conference. A lot more night Big 12 action. So Iowa State, BYU, if you want to make sure you watch every single Big 12 game you can, you get a little bit of a sample of what that's going to be like in the Big 12 going forward. But yeah, not the most thrilling weekend of action in the Big 12, at least on paper. But how many times do we say that about a week in college football, and then all of a sudden it becomes one of the best weeks of the year? So just something to keep an eye on for Big 12 football coming up this weekend. Continuing on with today's 580 Sports Talk headlines, one final note from the Big 12. How about this? Announced earlier on today that the league is going to sponsor 2 new sports beginning in 2024 and 2025. And I am super jacked up about these. 2 women's sports, beach volleyball and women's lacrosse, are coming to the Big 12. Brett Yormark, in a statement today, announced this. Beach volleyball and women's lacrosse are both experiencing growth and popularity on a national level. The additions will allow incoming and current members to compete for national championships under the Big 12 umbrella, while expanding the league's footprint across new sports. So for these 2 leagues, women's lacrosse will feature at least 3 incoming members. Arizona State, Colorado, and Cincinnati, they all feature women's lacrosse teams. As for beach volleyball, those teams will include Arizona, Arizona State, TCU, and Utah. Kind of an interesting one. Outdoor sports in Utah makes a whole lot of sense. I love volleyball. I love indoor volleyball. I wish men's volleyball was a bigger deal at the Division I level. It's not. There's only one Division I conference, if I'm not mistaken. I think there's only 26 or 30 teams somewhere in there that play Division I men's volleyball, which is sad. I wish there were more, because it's a fun sport and men do play it. I don't know why we treat it so much as just a women's sport, but so be it. Adding beach volleyball, very cool. I hope that leads to other Big 12 schools adding a beach volleyball program. Outside of travel, not really the most expensive program to have. All you need is a court, and that's kind of it. Not a whole lot of attire that you need with it, just a couple of various uniforms, and boom, you're pretty much set. And lacrosse has been a growing sport for a long time. Again, women's sport added, not men's lacrosse, just women's. But cool sport, cool opportunity for Big 12 teams to get to add some more competition. And hey, not going to complain about that. That also, by the way, means now 25 sports are sponsored by the Big 12, including 15 women's sports as of next year, with the addition of beach volleyball and women's lacrosse. That does it for today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. Coming up on the other side of this timeout, we've got our preview for Thursday Night Football, and then we'll get to Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Chiefs. It's all coming up in this 5 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. question in the YouTube comments section here on 580 Sports Talk from Mark says beach volleyball will be awesome. Yeah, absolutely. It will be. It's one of my favorite sports, volleyball. I don't know if I've talked about that before. I'm more of a fan of the indoor game than the beach game, but at the highest level, it's absolutely fantastic to watch. Incredible athletes on the volleyball court. As for asking earlier, are you going to watch Thursday night football tonight? Panthers, Bears in Chicago. We have from, let's see here. Mark asked as well, how bored is Al Michaels going to be tonight? Probably very bored, if we're being completely honest. Barbara says, unfortunately, yes. And then Vance adding that I would rather watch the season finale of Big Brother than watch the game tonight, which, again, my wife and I will probably be watching at some point this evening. I'm going to watch because it's the NFL, and you know I love the NFL, but, man, I wish there were... I do wish we had more compelling Thursday night games, but hey, you know, what are you going to do? It's football, and we are a crazed football society, and we're going to end up watching it. We, speaking as the general public, maybe not everybody. Texter from the 785 says, yep, I'll be watching. I don't blame you if you want to watch. I don't blame you if you say, no, this sucks. But I also don't blame you if you say, hey, we only get football for so long. I'm definitely going to end up watching it. We also had a comment here from Barbara who said, I'm just going to mute the announcers and put the captions on. I love Al Michaels. He's maybe the greatest to ever do it in any sport ever. And I like Herbie, and I actually think the two of them are pretty good overall together. But Al's also lost his fastball. There's really no doubt in my mind, in fact, that he has lost his fastball quite a bit. So that makes things a little more challenging to listen to. I don't know. I feel bad. Like he's one of the greatest ever, and you want to let him go out with dignity. And he's already said he's coming back next year, which may make you feel not super thrilled about the Amazon package, but it is what it is. It's what we got to live with. Another texture from the 785, he says, I wish we had no NFL games on Thursday nights. A lot of people feel that way, man. A lot of people do. I like it because I love the football, and it's another game that I can watch, whereas, you know, if you just threw another game on Sunday, can't watch all of them. I guess if you had 9 screens, you possibly could. I do not have that at home, and it's another game that I would just see highlights of or just get to catch a few minutes of on Red Zone. So I like it for that reason, but again, I'm obsessive. I'm unique. I'm different in that way that I absolutely cannot ever get enough of it. So I understand all the different viewpoints coming in from that. So thank you for letting me know, and I hope if you're watching tonight, I hope you enjoy it. I hope you have a great time, or at least you get a chance to make fun of Tyson Bagent and maybe Bryce Young. I like Bryce Young a lot, but man, it's been a rough go for the Panthers this year. That gets us to the game itself. Bears are favored by 3 at home. So essentially Vegas is saying it's a toss-up. We're going to give the Bears the favorite here because we're going to make the Bears the favorite because they've got the built-in home field advantage. I've been fascinated by discussion from Bears fans, and you know, being from Chicago, I know a ton of Bears fans who are going back and forth wondering this week, do we root for the Bears to win, or do we root for the Bears to lose this game? What ends up helping us more with our draft positioning this year, since the Bears own both their own first-round pick and the Panthers pick? And I think if you're Chicago, you probably want your team to lose this game because the Panthers might not win again. Now, granted, the Bears might not win again either. But if the Panthers win and get to 2 wins and they end up 2-15 or something, that still might be good enough for the first overall pick. The Bears might not win another game this year. That might be good enough for the second overall pick. So, frankly, if we're being honest, I kind of think that the Bears fans, if you're just rooting for draft position, you probably want the Panthers to win. Now, you also know me. I never root for that. I am absolutely not rooting for just draft position. I'm also not a Bears fan, so I don't really care in the long run. But I find that to be weirdo behavior, and frankly, I just will never do it. I know Packers fans who are doing that this past week. Oh, we beat the Rams. Oh, God, it's going to hurt our draft position. I do not care. I did not fall in love with football as a small child to then one day worry more about draft positioning than I do about the team itself. I don't ever want to be like that. But I guess if you root for a loser team, sometimes that happens. And that's where we are with the Chicago Bears and the Carolina Panthers, but because they own the draft picks, specifically the Chicago Bears. As for the pick tonight, I don't know, man. I don't know how you pick a game between two of the three worst teams in the NFL. I'm going to go with Carolina, A, because I'm a hater, but B, Thursday night games are weird. Generally, you would think at home is an advantage. You'd think short week is an advantage. You'd think, especially against a bad opponent, it's an advantage. But Thursday night games are weird. They never seem to go exactly how you would plan for them to go. I do like Bryce Young, and I do think he's the franchise quarterback of the future in Carolina. Probably not with Frank Reich as his head coach. I think he has totally phoned it in at this point in his career. So give me Carolina. They're getting 3 points. I'll take that for sure. I think they've got a chance to win. I'll take them with the points. This is the ugliest game we've had on the schedule this year. This is worse than Bears Commanders from earlier in the year, at least on paper. Because at least the Commanders were looked at as a team that are going to be hunting for a playoff spot. These teams are hunting for who can get to Cancun first at the end of the season. We've got to get to another break. Mitch Holthus will join us next here on 580 Sports Talk. Back on 580 Sports Talk, Brendan Dworzinski here with you, flying solo for the rest of the show today. Trying to get Mitch Holthus on the line, so we'll call up Mitch here in just a moment. See if we can get him back on the horn. He is the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs. He joins us every Thursday on the show, brought to you by both Hy-Vee and by Azura Credit Union. It's a weird week this week, considering there's no Chiefs football. You get so used to it. And especially when, let's be frank, you start a radio show every week and you are planning and prepping for a radio show that talks about sports. You talk about the Chiefs more than you talk about anyone else. You get up in the morning and think, all right, what are we talking about on Sports Talk today? And all right, Chiefs, what's going on with Mahomes? Travis Kelce, how's he been? Defense, man, they're good. And then all of a sudden, oh, shoot, there's no game. We don't have to talk about the Broncos or the Chargers or the Dolphins or the Eagles or anything like that. There's not really anything to get to at the moment because they're not playing. But without a preview, we still have plenty of Chiefs football to talk about from this past weekend against the Dolphins with Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Chiefs. And again, we'll try to get Mitch on the horn here in just a moment as we get you ready for a week off without Chiefs football. How do you consume football when the Chiefs don't play? Because I know, like I was just saying, I, as a football obsessive, I'm going to watch every single game I can. Plus, I have a different favorite team than the team I cover for work. So I'll be watching the Packers. But like this weekend, I'm not even going to get to watch the early game on Sunday because I'll be at Municipal Auditorium in Kansas City for Washburn. But that being said, do you just do other things? Because you say, yeah, I'll watch all the football I can when the Chiefs play, but when they're off, I'm going to take some time to not worry about it. Spend time with family or do some at-home projects, or I'll just check in and out. Do you watch Red Zone all day instead of watch just single individual games? Are you a multi-screener like yours truly? Again, I'll watch any game you put in front of me. If there's NFL on, I'm going to end up watching it. And this week, no Chiefs, but there's still going to be plenty of good football, plenty of meaningful football as well. And as needed, we'll get to some of the schedule and some of the big games coming up here for the Kansas City, or that could impact the Kansas City Chiefs actually in the AFC race, but some other games around the AFC and around the entire NFL that have a lot of weight and have a whole lot of importance on them coming up this week. We're going to take another quick break here as we try to get Mitch Holthus on the phone. We'll take a timeout. We'll come right back. We'll see if we can get to Mitch, and we'll get to some other news and notes on the NFL. That's all coming up right here on 580 Sports Talk. on 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. Thanks for hanging out with me this afternoon. Still trying to get Mitch Holthus on the horn. We'll see if we can get connected here with Mitch in the next couple of minutes, the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs. No Chiefs action this weekend, obviously. They are off after the long trip over to Frankfurt, Germany. Whenever we do get Mitch on the phone, hoping it's today, but if it's not till next week, I do want to know how he enjoyed the trip to Germany. I enjoyed Frankfurt when I was there. It was not my favorite city that I visited in Europe, and I'm not going to go through my entire itinerary and inventory of things I did while I studied abroad. I'm going to spare you that. But I really did enjoy getting to see it. Delicious food, nice people. People of Europe are really nice. I always hear about how, the ugly Americans and Europeans hate us. Nah, man, they were super cool. With that, though, how about some perfect timing? Because I do believe we have Mitch Holthus on the line. Give me just one moment here. Live radio, it happens sometimes. And I do believe we've got Mitch Holthus on the line. Mitch, how are you doing this afternoon, my friend?
Well, I tell you, it's still jet lag, but the truth is I've got the Patrick Mahomes 15 and Mahomes gala tonight. So it's a huge deal. Patrick is such an amazing person. He and Brittany tonight will raise almost $700,000 for children's philanthropies. There's 19 different philanthropies that will get gifts tonight. It's a huge event. It's awesome. He always does it during the bye week. And I was at a reception and thought, what time is it? Oh my gosh, I better sprint and jump in with my fellows. So sorry I'm late, but here I am.
Hey, no worries at all. Any amount of time we get to spend with the great Mitch Holthus, we are happy to spend. And of course, Mitch's appearance here on 580 Sports Talk are always brought to you by Hy-Vee and Azura Credit Union. And awesome that you're there, Mitch, for what is an incredible event. And they have done so much good work for the people of Kansas City and the kids of Kansas City. I was just saying, though, I was curious, how much did you enjoy the trip to Frankfurt last week?
Well, it was kind of a slam bam, thank you, ma'am kind of trip. It was, we got wheels up at, I talked to you guys. The night we left, 1,900 hours we took off. So 8.5 hour trip. We lost 6 hours of time. And so we got to Frankfurt at about 10 a.m. Friday morning, zoom to the hotel, drop off your stuff and go right to the practice facility. The guys had meetings, but that's the way Andy does it, man. He wants to have his normal week and then zip out there. But I was at the practice facility about 6 hours, but I did have some schnitzel on Friday night. That was good. And then you'll see a lot of video come out, especially on the franchise, the newest franchise, which will come out next week. We did some videoing in Frankfurt, and then so had a little bit of free time, not much, about 2 hours. And then, of course, the game and get in the plane and 9.5 hours back. And so, anyway, it was a quick trip.
Yeah, talk about a whirlwind trip. Well, let's get to the action from the game itself, Mitch. And I tell you what, that defense, every single week, it feels like they are doing something that amazes you, that takes your breath away. And I mean, they limited the cheetah, Tyreek Hill, who we figured was going to make an impact in the game, but they held him completely in check. Tua Tagovailoa, who's an MVP candidate this year, almost assuredly, he was largely held in check for the balance of the game. The defense comes up big. They make the plays late. They get pressure on Tua late. They, every week, it feels like, Mitch, are getting better and better at this rate. And I thought, personally, to slow an offense down like that has put up so many points and so much yardage this year, was maybe the feather in the cap for the first half of the season for Spags' group.
Well, my thesis this week has been it's almost like a parent-teachers conference, right? We've completed 9 weeks. So after the first 9 weeks, you always have a sit down with the teachers if you're a parent of a student, and that's where we're at right now. And so let's talk about the defense and talk about the body of work. They shut down Justin Jefferson. They shut down Tyreek Hill. In the last 8 games, only Baltimore has allowed more offensive points scored. You look on third down, they've only allowed like 3 yards per play, which is the best in a quarter century. I mean, this defense now, and as I ended the game in somewhat excited fashion, after they hold the Dolphins on the bad snap and the blitz by Cook, that can we talk about this defense now? And I think for the first time, really, since the 90s, part of the Chiefs narrative now is a very real discussion about one of the NFL's top defenses. If you talk about the good defenses in the league, San Francisco comes into discussion. Baltimore's probably first. and Cleveland's not far behind. But now Kansas City is a fourth discussion piece. And this isn't a flash in the pan. This isn't one game. You have 9 weeks of data here to show you that this defense is for real. And quite honestly, it's what we talked about during training camp. You could kind of see it forming, but they've now faced some of the elite players in this league and held their own or shut them down.
We're chatting with Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, joining us here on 580 Sports Talk, brought to you by Hy-Vee and Azure Credit Union. Mitch joins us here on the show every single Thursday at this time during the Kansas City Chiefs season. On the offensive side of the ball, Mitch, breaking down the snap counts from this past week, and I know that the final receiving totals were so spread out. I think it was 9 different Chiefs who caught a pass. No one had more than 3. Noah Gray, who I'll get to again in a moment here, I think led the team with just 34 yards receiving. But if you look at the snap counts, you saw Rashee Rice, MVS, and Justin Watson as your guys who were on the field the most at the wide receiver spots for the Chiefs in this game. Does it feel like that trio, or at least some group, is starting to emerge as the inner circle of pass catchers along with Travis Kelce for this offense? Because that's been such a big topic of discussion all year long to this point. Who's going to step up? Does it feel like that trio might be that core group going into the second half?
Now, are you asking this for fantasy football reasons, or during inquiring minds want to know? You're asking for a friend.
Not for fantasy for my purposes, but we've talked about this a lot on the show. Jake has brought up a couple of times going back to the start of the season that he's been hoping to find a core group, hoping that the team finds a core group who they can rely on, that, hey, you've got to put together a key drive at the end of the game. Who are the guys you can trust the most to go catch passes? So we've kind of been looking at groups of 2, groups of 3, who might end up being in that group. And I was wondering if maybe the Chiefs have found something like that, considering those guys have played more and more relative to their teammates.
Yeah, I don't think we can give a definitive answer yet, which may be cause for concern in our parent-teachers conference here of like, well, here's what we can work on. Now, offensively, it's not all completely bleak as far as Chiefs are number 1 in fewest sacks allowed. They're near the top of the league, they are the top of the league in the fewest 3 and outs, which means they're moving the ball.
Mm-hmm.
That means their third down ratio is number 5 in the league. So that the point you bring up might be the next part of the parent-teachers conference here. It's like, what are we going to do here? So to make the definitive statement to answer to say it's those 3 guys, I think is presumptuous. But at some point, you may want to get some clarity on some consistency here. Now, Rashee Rice to me would be the guy that would be the leading candidate because he can do he's the most Juju Smith-Schuster-like guy when you look at his ability to get yards after the catch. But you don't want to completely discount Kadarius Toney, who made one of the better plays of the game, as I mentioned on the play-by-play. I think it was on the 95-yard drive. He gets in the underbelly of the zone and is able to break tackles. So one way you beat these 2 deep zones or people dropping back into coverage is you catch it at 8 to 10 to 12 yards, but you get a 20-yard play because you're hard to tackle. Now, Rice fits that probably as much as anybody. But Justin Watson may have the most confidence of Patrick Mahomes. Marquez Valdez-Scantling has the deep ability. But you said Noah Gray. Noah Gray's going to enter this discussion at some point because I think more and more Patrick Mahomes has confidence in trusting Noah Gray on certain routes. The cool thing about the opening drive was that like 7 different guys touched it. Gray touched it. Sky Moore touched it. Kels touched it. Justin Watson had the touch that was nullified. Rice gets the touchdown. Pacheco touched it. So it was a little bit for everybody. So again, I'm giving you a long-winded answer. I don't think you can narrow it down to those 3, but at some point there needs to be at least 1 or 2 that becomes consistent. And that's the biggest challenge now for the offense is not only the receiving core to be consistent, which is a continued theme since our very first training camp report in late July, but also the offense. Because a 95-yard drive, a 7-play touchdown drive to start the game. And in the second half, penalty. Now that throws everything off the rails. Same thing on the next drive. So it's a matter of eliminating these critical penalties because one of the things we're going to talk about in our parent-teachers conference is nobody has had more penalties. They're tied for the most in the league with 60 penalties. That's one of your nuggets of the night. But you look at the yardage of the penalties with 100 yards equaling 7 points. the Chiefs have about 28 points off the board with issues with yardage and penalties. So you can do the math. You're talking over actually almost 500 yards. So you're almost talking 30 points. The 31 points that are eliminated because of penalty yardage.
And I brought up Noah Gray, wanted to make sure I brought him up, Mitch, not just because he's my fellow type 1 diabetic brethren, but because I feel like this year he's played more than he's ever played before, percentage-wise, a higher percentage of snaps, and it feels like he has become a legitimate weapon for this offense in a way that I don't know he had emerged as before. He's a reliable pass catcher. He's got good hands, maybe not the most advanced route tree in the world, but you can ask him to do a number of things, and at least to me, having another guy who's got a multifaceted approach as a pass catcher and as a blocker too at tight end is obviously so important for any offense, but for one that's been kind of trying to find its way with this passing game, to have a guy like that, I feel like has been really valuable this year. What have you noticed about Gray's game and the way he's really stepped up?
Well, there's 9 different routes on the route tree, and I'm not so sure you can really discount or short circuit Noah running almost all of those. Now, Kels can in his sleep. But the catch that he had the other day in Germany was a 7 route. And he can run those corner routes, which is a 7 route, which is busting out basically to the pylon if you're near the goal line, or it's an angle if you run like 12 yards. And now I have a 45-degree angle toward the sideline, which is one of the harder routes to run. It's one of the harder passes to throw. That's why Lamar Jackson still can't throw it. And Tua Tagovailoa has trouble throwing that route. Now, Mahomes can do it again in his sleep. Noah Gray can run that route. That becomes critical because if you get a mismatch, Gray can leave those guys. So I think Gray now becomes, certainly a piece and part of a variable in the equation moving forward. I agree with you.
Mitch Holthus is the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs. He joins us at this time every single Thursday during the Chiefs season, brought to you by both Hy-Vee and Azura Credit Union. Mitch, I know you'll be in the control center getting ready for the second half of the season with the bye week in effect, so enjoy the football this weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
We shall, and get after it. I've got to get this 15 in my homies gala done tonight, and then we might shut it down for a bit. Just disappointed that Smith Center got beat by Marion. Way to go, Marion. Way to go. But I won't see Smith Center against Conway Springs, which is what I was hoping to witness. But I won't get that opportunity.
Well, hopefully there'll be at least a handful of other games you get to check out this weekend, Mitch. Thanks so much.
Oh, I will. I'll follow them all. All right.
That is Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, joining us here on 580 Sports Talk. That's it for the show today. We're back with a full show coming up tomorrow from 2 to 6. For Jake, for Dan, I'm Brendan. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 2 o'clock right back here on 580 Sports Talk.